don't sound on.
Well, now that you.
Now they do?
Oh, I know it's 10.
Okay. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ashland Planning Board meeting, Thursday, January 25th, 2024. I am calling the meeting to order at 7:19 p.m. First on our agenda this evening, as always, we will have the clerk's report. Kate?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. We received, since the last planning board meeting, 4 emails. 2 were sort of routine, I think, generated by the Historic Commission about a site, so I don't think they need any response. One of them is a specific thing that will, I think, be responded by the town planner, and one of them, I think, will probably be the chair to respond to the Historic Commission.
Yeah, I thought we would talk about that later tonight.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is public comment. I'll do our typical policy of 3 minutes per speaker, 1 time to the mic. Peter, you want to manage?
Correct. Thank you so much. We have one citizen in the room that has gone up to the podium. Mr. Mark DeSoni, can you please unmute yourself at the mic and introduce yourself with your name and address?
Yes, it is.
All right, we're good.
If I was home in Zoom, it'd be no problem. Okay. Good evening, Mark Sony, 49 Hawthorne Road, Ashland, Mass. And I'm here for a couple of reasons. One reason is that I'm very happy in the new way you start off your meetings with the clerk report. Get a lot more information out there and what things are about. That is informational for the regular citizens if they're home watching. The other is what's going to be on the agenda is the new clover garden. Is there going to be any citizens' participation for that?
We will have citizens' participation on that tonight.
And will there be citizens' participation for the first ones?
Yeah, I think we have time for comment for that.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
We have no other citizens' participation with their, in people in the room and or folks on Zoom with their hand up. So I think we're okay to move on.
All right. Then next on our agenda is our public hearing section. Our first public hearing for tonight is 9 to 49 Homer Avenue, which has been continued since January 11th. Peter, can you give us an update on where we are?
Sure. So this project is kind of making its way through, kind of tying up loose ends. If everyone remembers, at the last meeting, we voted on the color, and we went with the cool palette. And so that was produced. So after that vote, the applicant, and I'll just introduce them on the call tonight. We have Terry Morris, who is the attorney representing the application. We have Mr. Rick Salvo, who is the civil engineer. And we also have Ron Bork. Ron Bork is the architect. With that said, I just want to note that Ron has updated the full color brochure and renderings, what you see in front of us tonight. They were sent out and posted on the on our website. And so those are the most up-to-date color renderings of the building, which we can review. Additionally, we've been kind of looking to answer some leftover questions, and I have provided a memorandum which was updated, revised on January 19th. With that said, one of the questions that we were looking to answer was regarding a conversation regarding a sewer grinder pump. Excuse me. So regarding that conversation regarding the sewer grinder pump, town council did provide an opinion. that was sent out, and I believe it was posted on the website. It did come through yesterday, so if anybody hasn't had time to look at it, just please note that. And then today, we did receive, and it has not been sent out virtually, but it is everyone's binder tonight. It's a memorandum from the applicant's architect regarding the ingress and egress in the building code question regarding the 3 units that enter and exit onto the flat part of the roof. That memorandum will be under review by our building commissioner, and then I will obviously share responses. However, that is to date. From new material submitted and/or collected. I do want to say I have additionally sent out a draft memo for site plan review and special permit. I have them printed here in front of me. They are not in your packets. I did not want to punch that many holes tonight leading up to the meeting. And so it's right here. I know I did send it out digitally for everyone. So I think that's where we stand tonight. Obviously, we can go through a couple of the any lists that we want. But also, I would like to open up to the architect, the engineer, and the attorney for this applicant.
Peter, if I could, and Tricia, just to clarify, because I was not at the January 11th meeting or hearing, planning board hearing. I wanted to make sure the applicant was aware that I did watch the entire video, and I signed the affidavit that I am up to speed, and I did observe the palette choice by the planning board this evening. I'm very comfortable with what occurred and up to speed, so that, because it's a special permit, we're all required to be present and can only miss a certain number of meetings. I wanted the applicant to be aware that I did, although I was not there, I'm fully up to speed.
I just have to make a quick stop. I just got a text from the attorney that he cannot hear anything.
Oh.
And so that is not intentional. I apologize.
Do we know if anyone can hear out there?
Should be able to hear now.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind if we exclude all the lawyers, including me, but.
Town planner, can I please have a check on somebody on the Zoom meeting, if they can hear me?
Usually have our own channel.
Yeah, the sound just came back on. I have only heard a couple of little snippets.
Okay, thank you, Helen, I greatly appreciate it. Anybody else out there? Okay, they can hear us now.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
So I will, I guess, just review that, and as you could at least probably see, that Kate gave her clerk's report. We had a public comment by Mr. DeSoni, and maybe I will open it up just briefly to public comments, because no one heard me ask for public comment. If anyone has a public comment that does not fit under one of the agenda items tonight, I will open it back up, but only for items that do not fit under the agenda, because we will be having public comment, because you obviously didn't hear us ask for public comment. Oh, no, you're good, Mark. If anyone can go online and listen to you on the tape. Okay.
Town planner to Ellen. Ellen, do you have public comment?
All right, so those of you who definitely can hear us, make sure you let Peter know somehow. If you can't, turn your cameras on and wave or something. Okay, so I will then ask the applicant, Mr. Morris, if there's anything, if there's any updates we need this evening before we start our discussions. Is there anything you feel we need to see? We have the packets in front of us, but if there's something you want to make us especially aware of.
No, Madam Chair, we understand you have received a complete package from our architect, Ron Bork, incorporating the various things that had been discussed over the last few meetings. We understand you've also received a decision from Lisa Mead, the Town Council, And we do know that our architect, Ron Bork, has delivered a letter to the commissioner dealing with one of the other issues relative to access. So at this point, we do not have anything to add. We look forward to participating in any way that you deem appropriate.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, and I'm looking for planning board feedback, but what we talked about the last time is that we would use this time to start going through some of the conditions, the special permit conditions, the criteria, special permit criteria, site plan review criteria, so that we can see if there's anything that we get a little hung up on these things. That's not to say that our other checklist is complete. That's not to say that we're not going to come back to it, but to start making our way through these criteria so that we know where we might have issues. Does that sound agreeable?
I have a question. So I sent in a comment about the, I'll call it, it's a memorandum, but the open outstanding items list. Do I need to send that in again, or how do we get that discussed?
Kate, I can follow up on that. So I did receive your comment.
Yeah.
And I did reach out to GCG, and I did use your email, and I did include the verbiage that you were looking for to kind of to pinpoint and get some answers on. I did not include that email in the packet tonight, but I'm happy to share that with you, as follow-up to the meeting.
Yeah, and I guess I, at some point, would love to see one list. So if it can get added to the list, this edited, I mean, I think that was the point, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that list, Peter and I were starting to go through that list.
Yep.
I think some of it went out with specific, specific areas. I think point 1 is probably has the most sub-points in it, let's say, that are still being reviewed by GCG. But those things were sent to them. I think I included the original design review committee comment list that created the comment that you were interested in. So that went back to them as well, even though I know Mark Carter got it once.
He's got it a couple times. I
so.
emailed him. I followed up with a phone call, and that memo was dated August 2nd, and that has also been part of the record. And so it's all being analyzed and looked at.
No, I'm good with that. I mean, it's under item 1. It's just some things were added red and other things. So that's why but if that's the process, I'm fine. It's there.
Yeah,
It's good.
I have not made my way back to that list yet. So, but it's next on the to-do list. So, is this in the bind? This is in everybody's
Yeah, this
binder,
is,
sir?
what Tricia is referring to is the special permit, the site plan approval, and the design review criteria. That actually rests behind the agenda. No, I'm sorry. It rests in section 5 of everyone's binder. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I hid it back there just so it can remain there. Am I correct?
Section 5?
No, there's no
I
section
have it
5.
right after the agenda.
Is it right after I'm sorry. It's right after the agenda.
To the talent bank.
It's right
Correct.
there.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so what I did, because both in printed form that I have at home and online, I find it's just a little hard, to go through. So what I had Peter do, as you can see just a few days ago, is to download it from the website of the bylaws and put in some minimal formatting, because anytime someone does a bylaw, it seems to be formatted slightly differently. So gave it some minimal formatting so I can find myself in it. So really this was selfishly for me, but I thought it might be helpful for everybody. So what I did, the only thing I really underlined in these 3 categories, 9.4 special permits, 9.3 special permits, 9.4 site plan review, and 9.6, which is design plan review, is to call out where the criteria are. So should we just start at the beginning and look at criteria for special permits? And as you know, these aren't the only things we can look at, but these are things we have to look at. So we at least should get some of those going. So criteria 1, under special permit, is community needs served by the proposal. And you remember that in our conditions, why don't we pass these out too?
Yep.
Just because we all love
They're all, actually, I'll take this one off the top.
like
Sorry.
this.
Nope.
Like that. Or just one?
yep.
Do I just take one,
Yep, just take
or
one.
do you want to do it?
No, I'll do it. You should have 2 staples. Here you go. This is for you.
Okay.
There you go.
So as you know, when we start to put our decision together, whether it's an approval or not an approval, we need to list out these criteria and have a narrative, a short narrative that describes that, unless it's non-applicable, which once in a while we get one of those.
It starts on page 9. It's just for everyone's reference.
Okay, so, so Peter, in the draft approvals, what he was doing is kind of go through and filling in all the factual information, obviously all the different meetings, the continuances, the artifacts, anything that was submitted. I think are there some draft conditions, or is it the basic conditions?
The
usually?
conditions that I left in there, it's just the basic conditions, kind of the boilerplate conditions. There are 2 bullet points I just tossed in, and I highlight them in yellow just for a reminder point for myself. But no, these are just typical the boilerplate conditions that what we normally have.
Okay. So under criteria number 9, if we just start talking about those, criteria A is community needs served by the proposal. So basically, we're looking to give Peter information about how we think that needs to be filled out.
Do you want to just kind of talk through some of those things?
Yeah, I think anyone who has something that we would put under that category, I'll take some notes. Peter can take
Yeah,
some
I'm happy
notes.
to take notes. I'm going to
Okay.
take notes right now. I'm not
Okay.
going to.
I mean, I think the most obvious is that there is a housing crisis in Massachusetts, and so I think we always are interested in contributing to the solution for that, including, obviously a component of this is going to be affordable housing, and that makes a difference. There is, I think, interest in this board on downtown revitalization and giving our community a more walkable, active, energetic downtown that also preserves the aesthetics of our unique historic downtown. So I would say there's some community need served by this kind of project that is certainly there to explore.
All right, thank you. Anyone else want to add to that?
That covered everything.
I
Yeah,
will
I
actually.
was just gonna add the only thing that Anna didn't mention, but it was inferred there, is the amplifying the scope of commercial uses in downtown, which is part of that revitalization, right?
Right.
And an improvement to the tax base and to the services that people in Ashland can
So-
benefit from, so.
So adding business and commercial
Yes.
spaces.
Mixed use, I think, is the term
Yeah.
that we are seeking to add to downtown.
Well, I just want to make a comment, there is commercial there now that will be going away, so I don't necessarily agree with that as an assessment. I understand there is mixed use, but it's fine, but
But you would agree that it's in terms of the way it serves the downtown, the pedestrian access to it will be an improved type of commerce, because commerce that is a strip mall type, which we have in the town, is I would say is less favorable or less conducive to what the downtown is as a district. And I think that's it's almost an infill of leftover from years past that was not organized to call us for pedestrian-friendly commerce. It's more vehicular. It's being replaced with a different type of commerce.
yeah, no, I'm just saying my personal that I don't see, given that there's commercial there now, that's maybe a wash in. I personally wouldn't want to sell that as a community needs, given that we're removing commercial as well.
It could be, yeah, understood, and it could be as providing opportunity for different types of businesses, but we can note that, remember, these are just draft conditions, and we can reword them as we want, so. Terry, well, let me finish this conversation first. Anything else, Anna?
I was just going to say, it's an interesting idea, like replacing one with the other. On the other hand, like, there is a value, if you will, and I guess we as a board have to figure out, what are we trying to do downtown, right? So, you know, are we replacing it with light industrial? Are we replacing it with a hotel? Are we replacing it with residential and business? What's important to us? And so any kind of project is going to potentially respond to a community need, even if it's replacing something else. So it's not so much, I don't think the bylaw is asking us to like rate and compare. Ooh, is this project better than the prior one? It's more like, what will this project do towards whatever value we have as a community? That's sort of how I interpret the bylaw. I don't think we have to measure it against what's already there as much as, is it consistent with what we want now? But I respect and understand Kay's point that we are kind of, maybe we're changing the dynamic of the kind of business. Maybe we are making almost a shift in the presentation, if you will, of Ashland. Like maybe more towards a fancy business versus a not so fancy. But that is something that we haven't really discussed as a board as to what we're looking to do. So I'm not sure how to frame that yet.
But I think I see it, what I was mentioning is more of the difference between a quantitative exchange of one commerce to the other to a qualitative approach. Because even when we went there, yeah, there's commercial equipment there. There's paving trucks that park in the back on the space, and a paving company uses that thing. I think for what the downtown is trying to do, and we've invested a lot of money on what's happening in the downtown, is towards pedestrian use of the downtown, better than paving trucks. I think it's a business, just like the other is a business too. But the downtown is intended to bring people, pedestrians, to revitalize downtown. And I think that's it is an improvement based on this criteria, because the downtown is not any commercial space, it's downtown.
I agree with Marcel on this, that like, if you think about some of the really successful community events that we've had in the downtown space in the past couple of years, where people are out and they're walking, whether it's the holiday stroll or it's the trick-or-treat event or things like that, it's sort of on that one pedestrian, area off of Main Street and then heading down Front Street. I think I can envision with the walkability of this project, that's making the turn all the way down, right? And it sort of brings in that whole area and opens up like a whole other side of downtown that right now I think doesn't feel super connected because of the walkability factor. And so I do think that's a community ad, and I think the project has, whether we've had a lot of thought towards, seating and bike racks and things that are going to have a way for the community to come into that space and use this project, aside from just sort of, pulling your car in and making your errand and then driving off to wherever you have to go next.
So can I suggest language that we might want to use for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Peter's, if you want something specific, otherwise I think Peter's taking notes and we'll be doing a draft on a.
If you want
draft.
to, I'll greatly appreciate
Yeah,
it. Just email it to me and
I'm just
I'll-
listening, and my thought was pedestrian gateway to the southern edge of the downtown is the community need that
I think
we're
that's great.
meeting. Pedestrian gateway, that seems to be consistent with what I'm hearing. I will just add a comment that, to Kate's point, we are replacing, and therefore it gets me thinking, where would we want those businesses that we're kind of kicking out to go? If they don't belong in downtown anymore because it's going to be a pedestrian gateway, how do we need to contemplate where those businesses can actually do well? Are there other parts of town, light industrial, that we need to think about? But that's separate.
That may be a comprehensive plan question.
Right, but something for us,
right.
Since that's our, planning is our thing.
Okay, I see a hand raised.
Yeah, Attorney Morris, I see you have your hand raised.
I do have a question, a procedural question, because obviously the only thing you're considering the special permit criteria, but the only special permit element of this project is a flat roof. And yet, it seems to be you're treating the whole use, you're treating the use, which is allowed by right in the overlay district, as if it were the subject of the debate. I just don't know how what approach the planning board is going to take to discuss. For example, you're talking about businesses now.
Okay, I understand. We're going to answer the question. Peter?
Okay.
Terry, I understand your question. I think overall, we're just talking about the project as a whole and how does it fit into the community, and I think these are just overall findings of the board. And I think later on down, in our finding area, these are just the criteria that we have under the 9.3.2 of our special permits. And these are kind of boilerplate and they're used, across the board. I think when we get down to 8.5.14, which is the mandatory findings for a special permit in the Ashland downtown district, that's when we'll jump into the components of the special permit regarding just the flat roof and how it relates to the decision.
Okay, so, yeah, and I could be wrong, but I don't think that our special permit bylaw, I don't think specifies that we just are supposed to look at that we're granting the special permit as a whole, and these are the criteria. At least that is my understanding and is our typical procedure, so that we are going to continue on with that. The second criteria is traffic flow and safety, including parking and loading. I think, just to jump in, I think we've talked about, we still may be looking for a few things, maybe not, from GCG. Part of it's on the list, the outstanding items list that we had been looking for. But it seems like all of that we have discussed, have had it analyzed, have asked the fire department, have asked the police department, and all of that, I think, is contained in our current process.
Yeah, I think the second page of the memorandum that lists off of, in red, I don't know what it's called. It's called Outstanding Items Memorandum. It does have Ashland Fire Department, Ashland Police Department on the emergency vehicle parking spaces being satisfied. And I recall that the flow was changed to make it smoother, so it seems like we've addressed those issues.
The item 3 is still open, waiting for GCG.
Yeah, absolutely. In going,
Gotcha.
in
Yep.
going through these, in no way are we saying that that list
Yep.
is finished or
Other
complete.
than that
That's
one.
right,
Mhm.
yeah. Does anyone else have comments under number 2? Okay, number 3 was adequacy of utilities and other public services. I think this would be water, sewer, would fall under this. What else might fall under that category, Peter?
Just typically water, sewer, normally
Right.
power, energy, obviously we have all that stuff. And we do obviously we do have sewer capacity, we have water, this area has highest water pressure, we checked on that. From a sewer standpoint, Greg Eldridge gave us that memo a couple, months ago at this point, and I'm happy to check in with him again, but, this did come in and we do have enough.
So we have, item 10 is still, maybe we received information, I haven't seen it, still open on the sewer capacity.
Isn't that one of the things you had,
I think that's one of the things
Okay, I know the water,
double
they
check.
said was adequate. I do not recall sewer. But-
double check.
Yeah, can we double check that? Because I thought number 11 was a possible condition, not necessarily wrapped up. Am I misreading the memo? Because it says water flow test should be completed as a possible condition. So is that
Yeah, but
water
that's
test
not
done?
sewer. That's for fire protection, and
That's
that's,
fire protection.
and that was actually confirmed.
For
that
water?
they did.
Okay.
Yep.
I took that as water pressure.
That's the test to make sure that there's enough water capacity for
Water.
Right.
firefighting, which it was tested.
Gotcha.
and
Okay,
confirmed.
as long as we've addressed it.
No, I don't think that's an issue from what I remember hearing.
yeah, and like I said, there are, as we keep noting, there are outstanding items. Some of them actually aren't outstanding anymore, but from that list, but we're going through these first, and then we'll continue to go back and forth between the two lists. But it's good to note those things if you have questions, because then we'll make sure the questions are answered and it reflects back to this. Item number 4 is neighborhood character and social structures. I think that goes a little bit with what Anna was talking about in number 1, about the vitality of the community.
Yeah, and I want to say that we had also discussed, if I recall, there were like little benches in front of the project where there's like these little enclaves of trees and benches for people to sit, that in theory people could kind of congregate as they walk by. And if I recall, there's a little pocket park on the side and potential for bike racks. And so all of that is part of the neighborhood character, if you will, of inviting people to start utilizing that pedestrian gateway, if you will, feel that we're trying to create on that side. That's not just for the residents in that community, but kind of creating this kind of third space where people can sort of hang out in theory and visit a friend, or, you know, I don't know, pick up the mail
Right.
and hang out and open it. That kind of
There's
thing.
the mural too, kind of blending in.
Exactly. Have a cup of coffee and sit by the side of this new project.
I think the other thing here for me is that, and maybe it will be forgotten in the many things we've been going through with this project, especially as we wait for GCG and responses to GCG, is that I think when we first received this project, I at least was, surprised isn't the right word, but maybe grateful for that. I think they had paid closely attention in a proper way to the things that we have in the downtown district as far as form-based code. And that it was obvious that they looked at it, they studied it, they didn't just put it on in some haphazard way, but actually in a way that looked proportionally correct. Now, I know everyone doesn't have the same style of architecture, but they looked at the downtown form-based code and they applied it, and I think applied it well. So I would
So
put
I
that
have-
in there as well.
I have a comment on that, because this is saying our decision is based on a written determination. The adverse effects of it will not outweigh the benefits. And I appreciate like seeing all the great things, because I think there are. But if you recall when this first started out, I mean, those are historic buildings. You might not like them, right? But those could be, people do value history in our town. They came and said so. And like the social structures there's businesses there, that's a barber shop, right? And that is,
The barber shop is not part of this project. The barber shop's going to stay there.
I don't think so.
I think so.
That's in the brick building, right?
It's the brick building.
Chris's barbershop stays, Pizza
Okay.
stays,
Cheers also stays. Okay, so some other business, but.
The strip mall on the back is
Yes.
the one that's.
So I guess what I want to be careful, for me personally anyway, and I don't think the board's saying this, but I would like it somehow to be in there, that we are respectful of the things that are dramatically being changed. I think that's important, at least for me. So hopefully that will make it in, that there are some detriments to existing social structure of that neighborhood. People have expressed that.
I
and
disagree
histor-
with that, Kate.
It doesn't mean they don't outweigh. That's if you read the criteria.
Yeah, no, but what you're saying is that to make a statement that I think is unnecessary, they're not historic structures. That is a term of art. They are old structures, and some people value them. Yes, I don't think they have been deemed historic in any way. I have not seen that.
They're under our bylaw, though. To be clear, they would be under our bylaw for a demolition review.
Well,
That's true.
That's a different thing.
Yeah, no, but that,
But so I'm just saying, I get what you're saying, but everybody on any new project, some people will like some things and some people will not like things. If we start introducing or making determinations based on some opinions that are not really germane to the criteria, I think we're going into a slippery slope. I don't see the need.
I think the neighborhood character is germane. It says so as a criteria, that's all.
And it's being improved, that's what we're saying, because it's conforming to the street in a pedestrian scale, which it's not now. Right now, basically, if you see, it's almost like in my personal opinion, it's like a broken smile of an urban space, with buildings that were not accommodated to face the street and to create an environment that we're trying to reverse now with the changes in downtown. That's exactly the benefit of
So I
this
don't
project.
think if you say it's improving by acknowledging some importance of what there. I don't think they negate each other, is my point.
But I don't think there's a
So-
detriment because they have to demolish some buildings to make the project. That's.
So
I
just
think
to
it's a
kind of
stretch.
jump in, I think there is a middle ground where I don't think the bylaw requires us, with all due respect, I don't think the bylaw requires us to compare and say, you must put in something better. And I don't think I personally would not want to put language that says what we're putting in is better than what was there. I think that all we need to do is we need to make sure that the project contributes to the neighborhood character and social structure, and it can without us feeling like we have to kind of pick which one is better. I don't know if that makes sense. This way, you're both right. I think Marcelo is right that the project has benefits. I think Kate is saying, hey, we're still replacing something of value to our community that also has neighborhood value to the neighborhood. Both of those things can be true, and we don't need to pick which one is best.
And I don't think we're doing it. I
Yeah.
agree. I think we're both saying in a
Yeah,
roundabout.
I would just say,
kind of
let's
something
stay
similar.
away
It's just
from
that I don't think
language.
it needs to be stated in, which Kate is requesting, that this decision says something about that part, or the replacement. It's almost, yeah, we don't need to get into.
Well, I think I'm only requesting if we are saying it's better. I guess that's the point. So I think if it's.
We're saying it complies and
If,
we're agreeing that benefits the downtown.
Are you okay with
Better or
not
worse, nobody
saying that
say
it's better? Because I, for one, would feel more comfortable not starting to compare it to what's there. I don't think that's necessary, as long as we've acknowledged to the public that we respect the fact that every type of neighborhood has a aesthetic and cultural value. And right now, people enjoy that use of the neighborhood. The future use may be used differently and also enjoyed. I personally don't feel comfortable saying, hey, I prefer something this way versus that way. I think everyone has their own subjective preference. But this new project will have neighborhood character and social structure.
And I think
Oh,
that's
myself, I have-
Tricia's point, is that it fits so well with what is already happening downtown and the aesthetic there. I think the consideration of the train station is another example of paying homage to that neighborhood character, very deferential to that very significant building and how it would look, contrast, consideration of like the future extension of the rail trail and how that'll play in with the use of that building. So I think there are lots of elements that the project's considered, that we as a board have considered, that go to this without having to make a value judgment.
No. I don't have a problem saying I think it's substantially better.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
I don't see there's a problem with that.
I think the only way we can know if Ashland as a whole would prefer what's there now to what's being proposed is to take a vote, right, of everybody. But it's our job to look at proposals and say, yeah, I think this has benefits for Ashland over what's there. I think this is adding to the vitality of the region. I think this will support our local businesses. I think, this will improve our community, right? There are 6 of us sitting here, and we may have different degrees of, yeah, I barely think it's better, or I really think it's better. But I think that's part of, what we do is to try to at least put an ad in. Now, it may not be an ad in you may say, oh, I wish it was just open space. Well, yeah, that would be great, but that's not our decision. Is what's being proposed better than what's there currently, And that may have many different facets to it. So I think in writing the conditions, remember when we get to this, it is coming to some kind of consensus on these, but not necessarily is everyone going to be in full agreement all the time. That's basically impossible unless you're just writing very, very gray decisions about everything, which I'm not in favor of either. I think sometimes you have to take a stand. So, but anyway, I think the comment is duly noted, and if anyone has language for that, they feel strongly for language that they would like to propose, Peter is happy to take someone's text either right off the page or as a starting point for us to then talk about it again. So, okay? Right?
Perfectly said.
Thank you. All right. So, okay. Impacts on the natural environment. is there anything on the site that we're just thrilled to save? Natural stuff.
Do we have to check off all the boxes on this?
We have to say something about all the criteria. Now, some of them might be not applicable. I mean, impacts on the natural environment, obviously, that's not just the trees that are there, but it could be runoff. It could be, hey, we're adding a building, so it's going to take more power, though it could be more efficient than what's there. It doesn't define for us what that means.
I would just note this site has no water treatment for runoff, and so we are actually adding stormwater onto the site. We're making it obviously better for the environment, because right now there's hard pan and that's about it, and it just flows and runs. So now obviously we're going to have infiltration. There's going to be processes to obviously kind of make sure that water stays on site, it's clean, and it goes back to the aquifer, and it's in obviously. It's in relationship to all mass stormwater standards, which are obviously getting stricter and stricter by the day, which is a good thing.
I'll add that, isn't there also like a garden or something on the roof? Am I imagining that one of our first meetings, there were specific kinds of plants that would be up there that in theory could be attractive to birds and insects? I'm a big fan of those, since I'm hearing less and less of them in my neighborhood. Maybe they'll hang out over there a little bit on their way somewhere. I think that's important.
I think the site is definitely becoming more green than it was. I don't remember anything specific about that upper area and what might be turned to any kind of a garden. I'm not sure.
I vaguely remember that. I think the applicant
plants on
had
the
some
rendering.
person that was very knowledgeable in specific type of plantings, and it sounded like it was thought out and intentional to attracting some activity from creatures.
There is a roof garden, and you are correct, there's a landscape architect on the project who brought in obviously native species, native specimens that will obviously be planted throughout the site, and hopefully they do attract critters, the good critters, not the bad critters, to this property.
I think this will be the category where you add better value to the project versus probably the other ones where it's more kind of bringing enhancement to the neighborhood, but from value point of view, probably this is the category where we say one is better than the other, just to be respectful for the existing conditions, for sure.
Anyone have anything else under impact to the natural environment? Okay, last one on special permit is potential fiscal impact, including impact on town services, tax base, and employment.
So is this the grinder topic, in theory?
No.
Okay.
Yes, that's utility there. I think this one is self-explanatory in terms of there will be businesses, there will be more people living there. There will be taxpayers.
So
right?
I've been on the board, I think, going on 2 years, and we've been talking about that fiscal impact. And I think we have to be really careful of how we talk about that if we don't have data, right?
Don't we have a calculator or something that we could use?
The last I knew, that was still in flux of,
You know, just to speak to this issue, obviously, we did talk about the fiscal impact tool. We did reach out to Framingham State University. We kind of had a call with them. We kind of have worked through this process a little bit. Have we updated our fiscal impact calculator that goes back to 2016 when the town hired RKG to create a fiscal impact for the Cirrus? No, we have not taken that We have not taken that step. And so have we also looked at, we also kind of built out a very simplified calculator, and we can kind of plug these numbers in. But I think to what Kate's speaking to, which would be a larger fiscal impact calculator. If you remember with 10 to 60 Main Street, we had a gentleman, Craig, come in and he talked to us about what it is. He actually took that calculator and plugged in the 10 to 60 Main Street project. Was that finalized, completed, and ironed out? No, that was a kind of a project that we were starting to work through a little bit with 10 to 60 Main Street. If you remember, that gentleman, Craig, actually worked for the
Yeah.
town as a consultant, so then he was working for the private side. But to Kate's point, that's been a kind of a topic and kind of a general project that we've kind of spoken about as a whole.
So, on this point, I guess I want to bring it up, like Peter and way back with Emma did a sort of simplified, and is the board, I mean, I guess I recommend we at least look at that. Would we be comfortable adding that? It obviously has to be updated, everything's changed so much, but I just want to be, like, I know we did that for one decision, like it's stapled to it. This is right or wrong, we did our best to try to evaluate. I feel like we have to have some basis for evaluation.
Is that, you're the only one that knows this tool, Peter, is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible. Most of it's just kind of the town budget stuff divided into, per person, and then you can kind of estimate how many people will be living here and, what that impact would be. I can try to produce something, but,
I was talking about, too, can we take a look at the simplified one? It was pretty simple, the one that you and Emma did, and see if we
correct.
if we think that's reasonable, and if we have suggestions, and maybe use that, at least until we can say what's the real bookend that we want to go for.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
if
no, I
that
understand.
if that was possible to do.
It's possible, and I think that's kind of something that we can kind of take care of. I don't see any issue with that.
Okay. So let's put it in there and just see what it crunches out, I guess, at least as a starting point.
It's a good idea. I mean, it's good to not like write a decision just for the sake of a sentence, right? Like, it's good to have data to say, hey, we reviewed a simplified calculator, we're comfortable with it. It does get me thinking about like special permits in general, and maybe at a retreat sometime we can talk about that, because what does this mean? Like, does that mean that if a project comes in that's like really fiscally difficult, what would we do? It doesn't apply here, but it gets me thinking bigger, like, what do we do with data calculator if it spits out something we don't necessarily are prepared to deal with? So I'm all for using the calculator, but I feel like we should also explore the impact of that if suddenly it spits out something we aren't ready for.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, what if it says that it's extreme, right, on a larger project? Then what? I don't know the answer to that. So I just kind of want to, it's not related to this decision, but it gets me thinking in a more serious way about what that actually means.
yeah, and I know that Peter probably didn't do any more digging into it, but when he was digging into it before, he kind of found that, well, no one else had a calculator. So there's nothing to compare it to. Like, is our calculator accurate? Is it good? Is it bad? Like,
Yeah.
like,
and
at least we have one, but what does it say, right? What's it,
yeah, so it was very tough to compare, obviously, and, other towns, and not to call out abutting towns that I reached out to, but yes, they did not have calculators like we did, right? So, we were able to build something that was simplistic. Is it the complicated statistical measurements that were done by a professional statistician, for Cirrus, within concerning economic development, looking at, 5-digit, labor NICS codes? No, it's not, and I don't think we need to get into that, right? So it's just kind of a where we want to land on the ruler of complexity. However, at the end of the day, how does it comply? It kind of complies to all projects, not just this one project.
Any other comments about number 6? Okay. Then, I was assuming that this public hearing would go to 8:15, 8:30. So if people are up for it, we can continue on to the site plan review criteria, which should be in the other stapled packet or in mine, whatever you want to access.
Just a note in site plan review, I did say in the email, the conditions are not in this one, nor are the documents of the record, just because once they're completed in the special permit, they'll be obviously copy and pasted and put into here. So I'm only changing them in one spot.
So, site plan review criteria. Oh, sorry, didn't have my mic on. Site plan review criteria starts out with minimize, some of these are more obvious. A, minimize use of wetlands, steep slopes, floodplains, and hilltops. So I don't think we have any of that remaining on the site from whatever it was many years ago. I'm not even sure that noting stormwater runoff is really applicable here. It's not really what it's about.
Mhm.
Trying to think, look if it's mentioned later. Not really. Any comments on that? Or to me, it's just not applicable. There's just no natural landscape here. Okay. Minimize obstruction of scenic views.
I don't think we have anything to worry about.
I think we can say non-applicable
Yeah.
to that as well.
Okay. Item C is, were you looking up something?
No,
Okay.
keep going.
Okay.
I'm good.
Item C, preserve unique natural or historical features. So natural, again, I don't think there's anything there. Historical features, Kate, would you say your past comment applies there, that you think there's some things that may be considered historical? Or to some people considered historical?
Yeah, we did have comments to the board. I mean, I mean, full disclosure, I'm a board member of Ashland Historical Society. I think that's not a secret of value to me, but I don't think we're preserving historic features, so I think we have to say no, right? We just have to be.
Well, it's either not applicable.
It would be not applicable, or it is preserving, or it's not preserving. I mean, you have to be more definitive if you're going to get into that.
But we don't have to have non-applicable or it's great on each one. We could have a few that were, it's not really meeting this criteria, and that's okay.
I think that's right. Like, I don't think we want to.
But I think the question then is, like, for me, and I think I'm more in Marcelo's camp here, that just something, it has to be both old and
Recognized.
deemed historically significant, like everything that isn't, it's just like not all old antiques are valuable. They're only valuable sometimes.
But
Other
that's
times they're
your
just-
opinion, Trish, and I think you could find people to say otherwise, and so that's why it is important, right?
Well, has
To
the Historical
acknowledge.
Commission considered this site meaningful historically in any shape?
I don't think it's
Way or
come
form.
before them yet.
So
to
hold
have
on.
So the
that.
answer is no.
But the words used are features.
Yeah.
So it's not a historic building or a historic site or recognized historic by an official organization, it's features. Features to me is a very loose term. It could mean a variety of things.
It could be a building, though,
It could be, or it could be.
like Kate was saying. I mean,
Yeah,
it could be
or it
a
could be
building that's
something
building
that-
historic.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, what I like about the project is by size. Like, I'm not a huge fan of like this kind of wall concept, that there's like a block, right? But I do kind of like that there's some thought that we're putting into connecting it to the historic train station and the historic post office, in the sense that by scale, there's some respect of kind of how Ashland looks. You know, it's of a certain height, a certain feel, and we're thinking about colors and how it kind of, that to me is a form of respecting some of our histories. Kind of what does Ashland feel like when you drive through it? And I think we're not like putting in an urban tall building. That would be truly disrespectful of what Ashland's history is, to me. So, you know, it depends how you interpret this. Like, I'm almost neutral on it. I think that,
But wouldn't the word preserve is very specific?
I think so, yeah, and we're not preserving
I don't
We're
think
not
a
preserving.
natural or historic feature. I
It
think
also says unique historical
Unique,
features. And so
exactly. It is very specific.
I would hate for us to say we're not complying with this element if we don't have something specific in mind that there's a unique historical feature that's very specific that we're saying we're not preserving. You know, I hesitate to say like we're not meeting that. I don't,
But
just
in-
because
in-
someone says it's historic doesn't mean it is.
True, but in that nature, because the criteria is whether it preserves unique natural or historical features. If there's none there, it's a non-applicable
not
by
applicable,
default.
Yeah.
By default.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is that the
Which is where I
conclusion?
would trend. I would
Is
trend
that the
it's not
conclusion we're
applicable. I
reaching,
think
that
so.
it's the unique
Right.
word in there?
That modifier
And the
is-
preserved
I
word.
don't see a unique historical feature in that we're neglecting to preserve. I'd say there's nothing there to have to worry about. It would be not applicable.
Okay.
I'm just having an or lawyer moment, but I'll go with you. But there's like law decisions written on that, so, you know, but honestly, I'm comfortable with the NA, the non-applicable.
We need to have like architect battles and lawyer battles on our group, right? Like,
I'm all for NA. You know, honestly, what it comes down to is, the way I imagine it is, let's say there was a church, a theoretical church. I used to live in Portland, Maine, and this actually happened, where a developer comes in and converts it to a very fancy restaurant, right? That very much could be preserving unique natural historical feature, right?
Absolutely.
So I think the bylaw is intending for that type of energy. Like,
Yeah,
is there
let's-
something in town that we're grabbing and then forcing keeping it in
No,
some
that's
unique
it.
way, right?
If Pout Rock
Yeah.
was located
Yeah.
there,
Yeah,
and they were doing something to
right.
preserve and
Yeah,
be able to
so I would be
preserve,
okay with
you're
no.
preserving
I
a
would probably
historical
be
thing.
okay with a no, but I'm, in light of Kate's concerns about the buildings there, I think an NA is a lot more comfortable.
okay. I think it's good to discuss these things because we actually haven't.
We never had the
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah,
Indeed.
yeah, so, okay.
We should do it more often. Remember what we're doing.
Item 4, minimize tree vegetation and soil removal and grade changes. Now granted, soil is going to be removed on this project for the underground parking, but I don't think that that's what this is about. I think it's about, to me, it reads that it's about changing of the landscape. But I'm open to-
Or eliminating vegetation that
Right.
exists. Right? Is that the intent of this phrase? Minimize tree and vegetation and soil removal.
I would say we're doing that. Like,
Yeah.
we're not making it worse or destroying some soil or grade changes.
I mean, I think I agree with that, but given that it is specifically removing a lot of soil on the parking garage, we probably just have to have an edit to mention that we think it complies with the minimization, but
Besides,
it's a lot of, yeah.
besides adding a lower level in the base, you know,
Yeah, and that's true, but it's also adding more vegetation that is there.
yeah,
So it's actually increasing.
Yeah, so this one-
So
this
that
one-
therefore is not minimizing, right?
yeah, it would
But the
just,
soil, goes in the other direction.
I think it's minimizing on balance.
well, the finding isn't,
Yeah.
it isn't a yes, no, it's a narrative.
It's applicable.
Right, so,
Yeah.
so we could talk about that soil is being removed for the purposes of underground parking. But I think the note is that, you know, on the surface, it looks the same, right? Okay, E, maximize open space retention.
Yeah, with the definition of open space, I mean, we have to see. 'Cause
Yeah, I
open
mean,
space is not just empty space.
I would say right now, it depends how you define open space. If you defined it as an asphalt parking lot, then you can say, okay, yeah, there's a lot of open space. If you define it as greenery, you can say that there's none at all on
No,
this site.
or public, or
Public,
publicly
right.
accessible,
Yeah.
like the pocket park and the little plazas don't exist now, right?
Yeah,
is defined, I think, in our
Yeah, I don't, yeah, maybe we can look at it. But
Are you-
retention
is that what you were looking at?
I did.
What was it?
Let me read
Yeah,
verbatim.
yep.
Open space, the lot area not covered by any structure other than a swimming pool and not used for drives, parking, or storage, but includes balconies or any roof area developed for recreation, if not part of a structure or paved. It shall be kept stabilized with vegetation, cover, pine needles, bark, or other organic materials.
That is so 1960s. Anytime there's a bylaw that mentions a pool, okay, that was drafted in like 1965.
And that speaks to minimizing erosion, right? Or like a
I think
place
it's,
that-
yeah, it's
that
kind
is
of a,
natural.
Yeah, I mean, according
Can
to.
we on this one,
Needs
like,
to be
just sort
updated.
of put a description of what's there and what's saying, and it's sort of, because it's,
we can.
I
I'll
think
work
that's
on
the
it.
way to do that one, like, we're acknowledging existing has open space.
Paving.
We're
Um,
we're
Like a
replacing
plaza.
spaces in between buildings with intentional pocket park
I guess.
and enclaves in front of the building, plus a rooftop greenery to supplement what we've done. So I think the intentionality of it is important, like we're choosing to do it this way.
Even though the definition doesn't talk about public or public
Yeah.
use.
It's weird.
It simply is very vague, you know, simply the
So,
definition itself.
It's a,
Like,
it's a
it-
definition to calculate that percentage on a project.
It's redefining
Yeah.
open space in this century.
So,
Yeah.
so I think, I mean, some version, without torturing Peter, of acknowledging if we went literally by our definition, it's almost NA, right? But that,
We can be creative on
yeah,
that.
no,
something
exactly, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
but
saying.
you're
So
right,
then,
it will almost be an A.
then we can
based on
say
that.
some of the features that we think it is maximizing. I
Yeah.
think those should
I don't
probably
think we're
both.
going to get in trouble if we make it modern for what it is. I personally really like the enclave thing in front, the little thoughtful thing that we're doing in the front of the building where people can kind of hang out. I count that as open space because the
Yeah.
public could, in theory, ride by on a bike, park the bike, and sit down and have an ice cream cone. So that counts to me
Yeah,
and
well,
does
you-
have some value.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a little dangerous to sit in the parking lot, of the other, and have your ice cream, right?
And
So-
so what is the comment to this, that, like, applicable, or what
I,
is maximizing open
Creative.
space retention?
I'm gonna be creative and draft something
Yeah.
up, and everyone can take a turn reading it.
There is public space, open space.
Yeah, I'll use my imagination, Marcelo.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
All right.
all right, item F, screen objectionable features from neighboring properties and roadways. There's not,
Did we discuss like the trash system?
it's internal, it's an
Great.
internal
Yeah.
trash room.
Okay,
No.
then I think we're good. I think this is,
Yeah, I don't think there's a
Not
lot of,
applicable because it's not screening anything.
there's not,
It's just
there's,
the project.
there's not a lot objectionable.
No,
That's-
It's just a neighborhood. It's just-
G, consideration shall be given to the impacts of the project on town services and infrastructure. This is kind of similar to the other one. Did anyone have any additional comments? But I think that's very similar to special permit, town services and infrastructure.
And that's what's being reviewed by GCG, right?
Correct.
So we talked about that.
Yep.
Item H is electric, telephone, cable television, gas, water, sewer drainage, and other such utilities shall be underground except in the case of extreme physical and environmental constraints. I think that's all under, well, the telephone,
The telephone
That's-
poles are gonna remain on Homer. However, coming into the building, they will be all underground.
yeah.
So it applies.
Item I, exposed storage areas, machinery, service areas, truck loading areas, utility buildings and structures, and other unsightly uses shall be set back or screened to protect the neighbors and those using public ways from objectionable features. Such areas should not impede the flow of traffic on public ways. Am I reading that strangely?
No,
Such
it's-
areas shall not impede on? Huh, is that the way it is?
I guess, yeah. Shall not impede.
The flow.
Let's take a look at that.
It's fine.
I'm just gonna, this one was just downloaded, right?
No, you're
I
looking.
think it's just badly written,
Oh,
but I think
so-
it's accurate. Like, I think we have this handled.
I can find it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just
I'll
trying to
try,
see
I'll
if,
find it.
I
and
was just trying to see if that
You can keep,
got,
keep
you know,
going and
over
I'll
the years,
find
if
it.
that got just manipulated versus this fresh copy we just got offline.
Mhm.
Okay, J, when applicable. Yeah, so the unsightly things, I mean, I guess, you know, all the units that are on top, there's all the heat pumps on top of the building, right? On the flat roof area, but I think they're all,
They're outside of view.
Are they?
because doesn't the roof
There's
slope
a,
up?
there's a parapet, yeah.
Yeah,
And the perspective, you will never see it with the parapet.
because
I think
they're,
they demonstrated that in one of the
On a section, I
meetings
think, right?
that we discussed. And I
We
think
may
you
just
can
wanna
see it in
add
the
that.
rendering here.
We
Or
should just-
just not to get repeated, like put it in the conditions they said it was, or per the drawing. Because I'm with Martel, like the less you're kind of repeating on stuff. If we just say we think it met it.
I don't think it hurts to say that it's something they volunteer, I think they volunteered to do that, to not make it visible.
Yeah, it's
right?
part of the
Yeah,
design,
yeah.
as far as we're concerned. Yeah, it's right there. This one's, yeah.
yeah, they're kind of set down, right, into the roof.
Yeah, there's a well there.
Yeah,
But along with that, I actually, we were kind of going higher level, but little things like screening the transformer and stuff, and that usually, I
oh,
guess,
yeah, because that's along the side of the property, is that right?
I don't remember, so at some point we should probably look at that.
Yeah, it's, actually, it's in the back. Oh, no, that's snow storage.
I don't think this information would have that till they develop the full construction documents. So that has to be coordinated with Eversource or whoever is providing the power. 'Cause
Yeah.
Okay.
that may be actually the utilities property, not the
Correct.
project.
All right, we'll make sure.
But every decision I've been part of, there's been screening, and whether it gets completed that way or not, it's been screened and it's on the plans.
I don't think we know where it is then.
Well,
that's
then
a
we can
question.
put that in
We
a
can ask the que-
condition.
we
Can I
ask the
pose that
question.
question
Yeah,
to the applicant? Do we have a location, who's still on there?
The civil engineer one.
Terry? We just have a question we want to pose.
Do we have a location for a transformer or any other kind of, those kind of services on the site? Something that might need to be screened? Oh,
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Usually you put those in
My
the back
experience
of
has been that the utility companies usually tell you where they're going to put the transformer.
Okay.
That's like information I have.
Yep, that's kind of was our discussion here too, so,
Well, usually, I mean, in some cases, like shown in the rendering, I don't know if it's the case, but they are usually on the poles, sometimes. And they will have the conduits going underground, unless it's one of those that are,
like a
sitting in
box.
the landscape.
Yeah. I guess it could just be it definitely could be a condition that if something is located in the landscape, that it can be planted around or, whatever.
Yeah, it's something.
The
like-
transformer is shown on the plan. Sorry, I didn't mean
Is
to.
it?
It's Rick Salvo. Yep.
Can you guide
Turn
us
on-
to where we're looking?
It's on the site layout plan, kind of the bottom left corner.
You have it there? Just move this around.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the page. It's a box with a T in it.
I'm just looking at the site layout plan.
Peter, if you want to give me permission to share, I can point it out. If that helps.
Rick, you're a co-host, pal. Please feel free.
Bottom right-hand corner.
One second. Whoops.
Bottom right, isn't that there?
Did you guys find it?
No, if he could point out, that would be
He's
great.
gonna point, he's gonna point it out.
Right here.
Oh, on the back.
Back of the building.
Oh, here.
We have a tree there, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
the-
or is it this
the-
other
the-
one?
There is a tree shown there on the plan.
Tree might be in front of it or behind it, but that's what's labeled.
Yeah, we have a tree coming right down maybe in the, in the middle of that transformer box, at least pretty darn close to it.
There'll be room to site the tree on one side of the transformer box to help screen it. There's plenty of island around
It's
it.
gonna be in the island, I guess. So the question is whether there'll be a condition, I mean, it's in the back of the site, right, as we see it?
Yeah, it's in the back.
The building is screening it from view from the street, really. I mean, to see it here, you have to go all the way in there. Right?
But what about the Alvin Street side though?
Well,
And then
there's landscape here, I'm not sure, but, I mean,
there's neighbors. They should just like-
there's no fence. There's no fence there. Then it could be, the screen could be natural
Yeah.
or with fence. I mean, I think they're proposing landscape there, so it could be screened with landscape.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would prefer that it just screened with some simple landscaping instead
Yeah.
of putting a fence around it. That'll end up being bigger than the transformer
I
itself.
agree, because then you will see landscape instead of, yeah.
Because they have neighbors on that side of the.
So maybe the condition is that when the final determination is made, that the landscape architect can work out the planting plan.
Yeah,
Just to
so
screen it.
Simple screening,
Just-
you know, matching the things that are already being proposed, or,
Yeah,
okay. All right, item J, when applicable, the site plan shall show measures to reduce and abate noise generated from the site that will impact surrounding properties. I think it may get quieter, given the equipment that's stored back there. But,
I think, I remember at one of our first meetings, I asked folks what the vision was for like light pollution and noise pollution on that roof. I mean, if I lived in the building like that, I'd have a party up there. Maybe it'd be loud, like
Only
New
if you live
Year's.
there?
Maybe I would throw some, what's it called? For New Year's Eve, I might do a little bit of a, something into the sky. What do you call them? The little flares or something. So in theory, you could have, with any kind of exciting new change for Ashland, like a rooftop on a building downtown, we may want to think about that and just hear from the applicant that there's some assurance that this is not going to get rowdy outside of the scope of the norm of behavior.
I think then you have to put, I think it's the same ordinance go for those residents as the residents of the neighborhood, right? Everybody should be treated the same. If one person can't throw a party, another person can't throw
Oh,
a party.
no. I'm not asking
Right.
the applicant to have party hours. I'm too libertarian for that. What I'm saying is I'd love to hear from the applicant now how they envision the use of that space. Is it open during the daytime? Is it open at night? Like, just out of curiosity, and that may completely address all of my.
Well, it's access to a couple of the units. They need to, just to get to their unit, they need to access that space, so it has to be.
And tough to tell, because there's multiple people living there. It's like asking you, how would you use your backyard?
Yeah. And then
on
it'll
Sunday, I'll
change,
use it
right?
one way, on a Friday, I'll use it.
I mean,
And I think
is it
any
private?
behavior is gonna
Is
be
it
controlled by the
private
police
space?
department, isn't it?
Is it a private space that's not
Yeah.
visible or to the public? Like, I personally
I
do not
believe
get
so.
a good, that's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is, I think it's worth exploring. I'm not aware of other apartments yet in Ashland that have that we've had.
But I think,
So-
I get what you're saying, but there's no condition, there's no finding there. Any misbehavior would be dealt by the police department. That's not a planning board.
I don't think
Assessment.
so. I don't.
I
think
mean,
that's-
noise is right in there. Noise is definitely our thing.
But the most
but-
affected would be the residents in the building before the neighbors are going to get affected. So I don't know if that's even, because all the windows of those units are around that open area. So if at all anybody gets affected, the first would be the residents in the building. So I don't think it's,
Yeah,
I don't see that that's an issue.
I just see this as more, if it's an industrial site, if it's trucks in the early morning dropping off Dunkin' Donuts, or whatever it is, I don't see it as noise by residents,
Yeah.
because then you start to put a real, to me, judgment call on certain residents and not on other residents.
True.
So but in thinking about that site, right, there's commercial there, we're replacing commercial, we don't know what'll happen, and those businesses deliveries for those businesses can have a dramatic impact on neighboring houses. I live near a plaza, I know, so we do have to address that, and it may be just a condition about like delivery hours or things, but.
I think residential or commercial use is absolutely within our jurisdiction to essentially address the noise issue, because you could have a hotel move in and it's way louder, or you could have all business move in and it's going to be different noise than residential. I don't think we're somehow punishing people. We just have to acknowledge the fact that this is unique to downtown. Downtown at night kind of has a quieter feel. We may have some activity. I'm not concerned about it based on our discussion, but frankly, we haven't heard from the applicant how they're envisioning it, and they might say, it's not even going to be open at night, so.
I don't think it's a question in my place to ask. I don't. I think that's a bylaw question that would cover residents across Ashland in any type of living situation.
And the uses proposed are
What are they chattering about now?
Speaking of noise.
Someone's mic is on.
What's being proposed is legal by right. So I think it's kind of a moot point. The commerce that exists now there is closer to the houses in the back than this one is going to.
Yeah.
Because it's recessed back into it.
I'm fine. I just wanted to talk through it because it is different and we haven't had a rooftop access building in downtown before. So I just didn't want us to not think it through and be surprised. As someone who's been to rooftop apartments in Boston, they are louder. They tend to be more urban. And this is different for a very suburban environment.
All right, well, let's leave it at that for now. We're obviously, like I said, it's our first pass through. I think it's a great first pass, so, but if, we're going to be going through it again, and if anyone has comments, they can bring them up at that time. Let's get through these two items, then we'll wrap things up for the night. Though I did say I'd allow public comment, so I will. Item K, the site plan shall comply with all zoning requirements for parking, loading, signage, dimensions, and environmental performance standards, and all other provisions of this bylaw. I think some of those things, obviously, we have gone through parking, loading, with GCG, signage was kind of a little bit out there because we haven't, I think the design review committee weighed in a little bit with that. Or maybe we were just looking at the standard dimensions that were on the drawings. Environmental performance, we know that's going to be all electric. That was already proposed. Otherwise, to me, it's zoning and building code. Does anyone else have anything else in there?
I think it complies.
Okay. Item L, the site plan shall be consistent with the objectives of the comprehensive plan. And all other applicable specific plans adopted by the planning board. So when's that comp plan getting done?
Well, it could be our current plan, which is the prior one.
2003.
Yeah.
I don't think we need a new one for this, but we do seem, correct me if I'm wrong, before I started in the planning board, or as I started, there was a rezoning, if you will, of a component of downtown. So I think we can say that we are developing downtown. It's consistent with the planning board's plan to make the downtown vibrant, because we seem to be doing that.
Well, it does, maybe it ties into what I said earlier about it really looking carefully at this form-based code, and I think doing a decent job at trying to apply that to this site. So, does
I think that covers it.
Okay. can add more later, obviously, if,
Tricia, did you mean to also do the mandatory findings for special permit tonight? I don't know if you meant to also go through those, or just.
I was just focusing on the criteria.
Got it,
For,
okay.
for tonight.
Got it.
And given that the time that we're at, I think it's a
Yep.
good ending time. I will open up this for public comment on 9 to 49 Main Street. 3 minutes a person and 1 time to the mic.
Not 49 Homer.
Oh, 9 to 49 Homer. Everything is on Main Street to me. I do that all the time.
First up, Mr. Mark Dersoni. Mr. Mark Dersoni at the microphone in the room. Can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Ta-da. Mark Dersoni, 49 Hawthorne Road, unmuted. Sounds like you're trying to upgrade and have in place historical and reasonable contents of what there is and what there is. But it seems like it might be a little bit of a easier time. They gotta get them, proceed with it to go on, but it seems like it could be complicated at the very beginning. But it also sounds like you're trying to compromise with whoever's gonna be using these. Yes or no? This is gonna be a compromise for every developer that comes in. Maybe you can talk it out with him, her, wherever's gonna be put there, and this one on Homer. This is gonna be this is what we're looking at. Can we work with you for this? That's my question.
I don't think I have a yes/no answer for you, Mark. So, sorry, I'll take the comment, but I don't have an answer.
Okay, the comment is, I was looking at it a couple times too, and I have one thank you mentioned in the form-based code.
You are welcome.
The second person, we have three hearings in the, on the virtual Zoom meeting. First and foremost, Charlie Zamuto, please unmute yourself and state your name and address.
Charlie Zamuto, Newton, Mass. I just want you to know, I own a few buildings that do have the roof decks. We do not allow people to light fireworks off on the roof decks, and it's actually illegal. And we will put a time restriction on it, so nobody can be up on the roof decks partying or anything like that.
That's too bad for them, but good for us.
All right.
And that is also a residential development, and we got to take in consideration all neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Second person with their hand up is Carmelo. Carmelo, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. My name is Camilo Spitia. I live in 3 Treasure Way. I just simply want to talk in support of the development. I think that is something that the town desperately needs, which is a walkable downtown with more businesses that help spread the fiscal load, more residents and more businesses helping us with our tax obligations while aligning ourselves with what has been discussed so far in Envision Ashland, which is having a downtown that's more pedestrian friendly, that has active businesses, and that in itself it means basically beautifying our downtown, taking what is now a very underused parcel full of parking into something that provides also a very much needed supply of housing while providing businesses. So I want to thank you for the time that you take as a planning board to discuss this, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about this. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Next, Kevin Moak. Kevin, can you please state your name and address?
Hi, this is Kevin Mowat. I'm at 95 Pine Hill Road. I just wanted to, well, first of all, I think this has been a great discussion to listen into. And I just wanted to point something out to the planning board that I noticed that the transformer was being discussed, and that was something that we hadn't reviewed in the design review committee meetings. And I know that the building is going to be all electric, as was mentioned during this meeting. And I think the transformer might be undersized and could potentially be much larger with an all-electric building. And that raises just concerns about screening and location and could impact the site plan. So I just wanted to raise that as something that should be thought about and considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And our last comment for the night, Joan, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Joan Gonfrati, One Shore Road, and full disclosure, I am on the Historical Commission, and I've heard several comments that this area was not historical, and I just wanted to comment that it is, I believe it is going to have to come before the Historical Commission for that determination. And I also like the comments about the noise of deliveries. I mean, I think I get that maybe it didn't need to be in part of that, but I think it is something that needs to be thought of because people are going to be living above it. So putting some kind of a restriction on deliveries is probably makes some sense. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
All right, I think if there's no other comments, I think we are wrapping up our time on 9 to 49 Homer Avenue for this evening. So obviously we are continuing, and because we have a lot more information to go through, but this is a great start. So where are we going on this one?
I'm going to go to the next meeting, and that date is going to be February 8th.
And I believe our final date on this project is March
1st.
Is it March 1st?
March 1st.
Okay, so we'll see where we are at March 8th. And
Correct.
then, okay,
Yeah, we have 2 meetings in February, and to move all items along.
okay. So we'll deal with that when we get there. All right, so you look like you're ready for something, Kate.
Just keep us moving.
Please.
I make a motion that 9 to 49 Homer Avenue site plan and special permit application be continued till February 8th.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Marcelo Hona, aye.
Catherine Jersey.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So that is continued until February 8th. Thank you to the applicants and to all the people who gave public comment. All right, next on our agenda is our second public hearing. This is the initial public hearing for 151 Main Street. That is the old fire station. And Peter, did you need to read this into the records?
Yes, just to start off, I do need to read this into the record, so please bear with me. The planning board will hear a petition of Ashland Brewing LLC doing business as Clover Road Brewing, requesting site plan review and design review plans per Chapter 48, Section 6 of the Massachusetts Zoning Act, Chapter 282 of Ashland zoning bylaws, Section 9.6, design plan review, and 9.4, site plan review. The applicant is proposing to create a 99-seat tap room within the former Main Street Fire Station. Seasonal outdoor seating area or beer garden will be located in the parking lot, protected by barriers. The parking lot is a parking area on the right side of the building shall be designated for a food truck. The overall project will develop 2,238 square foot tap room, an adaptive reuse of the existing building. Work will consist of exterior improvements, pedestrian safety, building upgrades, and landscaping improvements. The property is located at 151 Main Street, Assessors Map 14, Lot 84, and is within the zoning, it's within the base zoning district known as Downtown Commerce, and it also is within the overlay ADDA zoning district. All material was submitted to the planning board and available online. To get, if I may, obviously we're the applicant here tonight. And I do want to just note that Ashland's Economic Development Director also is available to speak and to introduce the project from a standpoint of the town and the process that the town went through in meeting Clover Road Brewing. I would say kind of setting up this project to where it is today.
I think that would be a good place to start, to try to understand the history. It is a little bit of a different project than we usually deal with.
Great. Do I have to unmute this, please?
Yeah, so I would like to introduce Beth Reynolds, Ashland Economic Development Director.
Hi.
You don't unmute the screen. It's
damn.
the microphone in front of you.
Oh.
As long as that little
Hi, thanks for having us here tonight. Glad to be in front of you finally. I feel like this has been a very long process. We went to town meeting in May and here we are in January. So I just am here tonight to introduce the applicant as well as just sort of give you the history of how we got here. As this is a town-owned parcel and building, and it will remain that way. And I'll kind of go into detail about that. So I'm going to introduce you tonight to the owners of Clover Road. John Muldoon is one of the owners, and he and I spoke over the phone, I think right before last season at the Corner Spot. He was calling to inquire about using the Corner Spot as a pop-up beer garden. Those have been very popular in town for the past 5-6 years. And so they were interested in that, and at the same time, it just happened to be that we were talking about the reuse of the police and fire stations downtown as the public safety building was almost at completion, and we were trying to figure out what to do with those two buildings. It is one parcel. I think that's why I'm like tripping up my words, because it's important for you to know that it is one parcel with the two buildings. So when John heard of the RFI, he thought, oh, well, we were going to do these pop-ups, permanent, sounds lovely as well, and they were looking for expansion. So the timing just happened to be perfect for this. So to go back as to the history of it, is in the fall of 2022, with the completion coming up, we were looking at what to do with this. So we wanted to make sure that we were very thorough and transparent with the town and find out what the community wanted. So we put out an RFI. As far as I know, the town of Ashland has never done a request for interest, is what that's called. So the RFI was basically to find out what people wanted. What do you want downtown? Where are we going? And so that went out for the two buildings on the one parcel. The document had several requirements. The exterior of the fire station was to be preserved for historic purposes. It could not include residential housing. It was only to be used for commercial use. The town wanted additional public parking in the area to support the increase of commercial use in downtown, and the use was to encourage an active and vibrant space. So the RFI went out for 8 weeks. 3 people answered that RFI with some potential ideas. So then we took those 3 ideas, we presented them at a public forum, and we sent out a community survey. And the community survey kind of described the 3 potential ideas, and it came back resoundingly that people wanted the tap room. They wanted a brewery downtown to give that vibrancy. So it was also found out during that gathering of information that they did not want to sell the property, they wanted to lease it. So the town wasn't ready to get rid of that ownership. So from there, we took that information that we gathered from the town and we created an RFP, a request for proposal. And that was focused on the vibrancy of the proposal, what the vibrancy would bring for downtown, and the feasibility and the consistency with our downtown vision. So we put that RFP out for a few months, and one proposal came in, and that was Clover Road. So we had formed a committee of different residents in town. So the committee met, and this was their purpose, was to review the RFPs that came in, so that it wasn't, it was a very diverse, open group. And They looked at the proposal, they reviewed the proposal, they agreed that it would be a great fit for Ashland, and it was recommended to the select board, and then it was put on town meeting on May 3rd, 2023, where the residents voted to support the project. So since then, the Clover Road team has signed a lease with the town for 5 years with the option to extend no more than 30. They're responsible for improvements, so they're getting it as is. And they're responsible for any improvements inside and immediately outside, but we are still responsible for the parking lot. So the town, DPW, will still be doing snow removal for this property. And then, I guess at this point, I think that's sort of how we've gotten here. It's been a pleasure working with these individuals. They have really, they did do a couple pop-ups over the summer months. They've met a lot of residents. They've made a name for themselves here. They've made a lot of good connections. People seem very receptive and excited for them to come here. That's what I've heard at least. So I am going to introduce them now, and they will kind of take it from here and kind of tell you about the project. Any questions for me on the process?
Do we have a sense of how long the lease is? Like, how does that work?
Yep, it's 5 years, and then if they can extend for 5-year increments, not to exceed 30.
Do they have to come back to us for extension?
No.
So when it's time to extend, they bring it to the select board?
With the town, yeah, it's just
Okay.
the town management.
One follow-up question. You said that the parcel has the two buildings. Was a determination what to do with the police building? Is that not part of this project
That is not
at all?
part of this project.
So that's going to remain for now where it is?
Right.
With this project?
We're working on ideas for that currently, but this has been kind of the focus, just to get this one going, and then we'll take the next step to do that one. So.
Does the lease clarify that if there's like a change of use, they would come back to us? Like, is the lease going to be, like in 5 years, if the lease is renewed, could they change how they use the space? Okay.
It is only for this use. It is described, their use is described in it as well.
Thanks, Beth.
Business ideas for us?
It's a beautiful building.
So, yeah, in that all state. So Jamie, John, and Alan are all co-owners of Clover Road Brewing in Hudson. They will continue to brew their beer only in Hudson and just serve it in the tap room here. So there will be no brewing of beer in Ashland. It's just the service of it. And then they are looking at liquor licenses that could hopefully provide wine and other spirits. So yeah, so I'm going to invite Jamie, I think, up to kind of get you started and tell them a little bit. Well, she can tell you a little bit about themselves.
Thanks, Beth. Well, Beth does such a good job. I wanted to keep her as a spokesperson here. I'm Jamie Muldoon. I'm 1/3 Clover Road here. So we purchased a brewery in summer of 2022, Ground Effect in Hudson, and we renovated it and we opened in September. So we are new-ish in Hudson. So we currently have a brewery and tap room in Hudson. And what we realized pretty quickly...
We can't hear her in the audience, just to let you know. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know how to fix that. I did push it, it was off. Yeah, maybe just talk a little louder. Oh, I see a green light. Okay, thanks. I don't have an IT background, so thanks for helping me with that, Peter. Okay, so what we learned pretty quickly in Hudson was that we can brew a lot of beer. So in the brewery industry, you have two models to scale. You can do distribution or you can do a tap room model. And once you get to know us, you learn pretty quickly we are community-based. We have a very large outreach program, and we like to focus on customers. And so distribution is not a part of our model. It's not currently, and it's not in the near future. And so we really wanted to focus on the taproom model. So we started to look at beer gardens. Beth kind of went into that a little bit, and 151 Main Street kind of came to be. So what we do in Hudson is pretty much, I wouldn't want to say carbon copy, but it's very close to what we want to do in Ashland because it's near and dear to who we are and what we believe in. It's a community space that, yes, we're a brewery, but it's also a transitional space that people can come and enjoy the town, enjoy the downtown, and have different things. So we have a lot of community events. We have a lot of, we bring in local vendors, and we like to kind of mix and match and have things for families, have things for couples, have things for just men, just female, really kind of just run the gamut. So we have yoga, we have dart league, we have flower classes, we have run club, we have open mic. There are a lot of things that we try and do to really just bring everyone together, and I would say that our space is transitional, and it's very focused on where we are and who we are. So what we plan to do is really light renovations. I don't know, Peter, if you can pull up the renderings. The renderings? Okay. So what we plan on doing is keeping the historic characteristics of the building inside and out, and we really do want to focus on the strong characteristics. This right now is the side. So do we maybe have the front? Maybe we should start with the front. We really want to preserve the character, and there we go. So in the front, we want to do a small patio. Oh, good. John can start talking about this too. He's up here too. So we really want to do a small patio in the front and on the side. And as you can see, you know, safety being on the main street and the sidewalk, those are going to be jersey barriers. We actually currently have those in Hudson right now.
Hold on. So what you guys are looking at now, that is going to be a retaining wall, and we're going to backfill it with cement, so it'll be nice flat. There's that slope as you come out of there, so that's not a great spot, and it's actually not super conducive to seating because the main street's so busy that what we're likely going to do to that is some seats, but more likely cornhole and things like that for gaming. So that's why we have the boxes in front of the jersey barrier too. So no kids as the summertime, 3 bay garage doors. They're not just going to run out into the main street. The retaining wall will prevent that, along with the flower boxes from that on the front side. So as we envision it in the summertime, those doors are open, music's out, people are outside playing cornhole, having a good time, relaxing, and kids and families are milling about and probably going to get ice cream from Sub-Zero. Is that it?
Sub-Zero.
And on the right-hand side,
which was the first one.
Which was the first one.
Yep.
That is where the seating's going to be, because it's off of the road, and there's some natural, well, not natural, but there's a barrier. There's a sound barrier there now with the plantings to help kill some of the downtown traffic noise. So on that right-hand side, those planter boxes will have jersey barriers underneath them. And what we did in Hudson, and we'd like to do here, is I wrapped them in cedar with the aluminum, so that way they're lightweight, and we can lift and remove them in the wintertime to allow people to park closer to the building and not truck across the parking lot, get as close as possible. So wintertime, put them away, summertime, back out, let's party. The whole point of the project, actually, for us too, is the way the fire station looks. I mean, it's great. And when we show people it, like, oh, this is what we're doing, and this is what they're like, that's awesome, that's amazing. So we're really going to do our best to make sure that the station itself stays the focal point of the design, that we don't really touch much of it, frankly. And even on the inside and the construction of that, it's pretty, I would describe it as minimal renovation. We have to add 2 bathrooms, but when you think about, I don't know how many beer drinkers are here, but a tap room is pretty open. There's not a lot to it. And part of the reason for that is the freedom of movement to go from one table to another, or different activities to things like that. So the interior of the tap room is, we're going to do our best to incorporate some of the history of the building into the tap room, but the actual renovation and construction is pretty straightforward and light. We're going to put in a bar and tables and 2 bathrooms. hopefully soon.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to add?
I don't know, did I miss anything?
No,
I'm sure you guys
not
have plenty of
necessarily.
questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Not telling. I guess I'll open it up to any questions from the board.
Very quick question. Is the production happening on site or in Hudson?
In Hudson, so
Okay.
we have big tanks, like Jamie was saying, like we can never produce enough beer to sell out of Hudson, like it's not feasible. So we have all this excess capacity. This is what we chose to do.
And just out of curiosity, because you've had this happen in Hudson already, can you give us a sense of employment opportunities to the local community? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think we employ about 12 people right now. It depends how busy we get. So the busier we are, the more people we hire.
And seasonally, we add to it as well. So in the summer, we have had to add seasonal employment. And when we do beer gardens, we've also had to include people. And I think we've also had luck hiring locals. So right now, most of I would say 80% of our bartenders live within 10 minutes of our current brewery now, which helps us out when either the weather's bad or we need extra help or something. So, but also get to know the customers, get to know the community, also help us.
The other part aside from employment is the cross-pollination of the businesses. So like Jamie mentioned, we do yoga. That's with the local studio in town. We do a candle making class. That company is in the next town over, but what we've done.
The floral company is in Hudson.
Yeah. So this
Run Club.
cross promotion. We've had 2 restaurants that have physical locations bring their food trucks into the brewery. So I imagine it'd be a lot of the same stuff here, cross pollination of businesses. It's one hand washing the other, really.
Also too, but we also work with the Hudson Rotary Club for volunteer, so we have a lot of volunteer events, because that's obviously community-based and really important to people and important to us. And so getting involved with those aspects too in Ashland and having those organizations come in, that would be great too.
I was just going to say, as a follow-up, you mentioned the focus on the community space, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
How is it, just out of curiosity, is there like a dedicated community space inside, or is it more within the open space of the?
Yeah, it's more within the.
Okay.
So the best breweries, in my opinion, are the ones that do a great job incorporating with the community, but they don't have a designated community space. But it
Gotcha.
might be that you're doing a fundraiser
Yep.
to support something in town, or what we have the Hudson Rotary Club that's doing an event here.
Mhm.
We've done charity fundraisers for just people who want to host, and we just shut the brewery down for that. It's more along that line. This space it's not a big building to accommodate, like, ideally, that'd be great, but not feasible.
And I think one of the reasons why when I use the term community so strong is because we want people to walk into the tap room and have it feel like it's an extension of their living room, an extension of somewhere that they want to be and feel very comfortable. We're very strong with not being a restaurant. You don't have to stay in your seat. We're not going to be strict about, this is your 4 chairs and you can only stay here. We want you to get up. We want people to talk to each other. We want people to feel like this is an extension of their own space. So that's why we use the term community so strongly.
Thank you.
Other questions?
At your Hudson location, I know you mentioned that you do food trucks, and you've shown that that's the idea here. I think there's probably like a bit of a seasonal component to that. It's not super like
it's year-round
food. Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, so one of the questions I was going to ask is, in Hudson, are you guys open to? I mean, I've been to a lot of tap rooms where you can order from anywhere nearby, any local restaurants to bring in food. Is that the kind of thing that you do in Hudson that would
Yep.
be great for our restaurants in town?
Yep, same idea.
Okay.
We don't discriminate. We'll have a light food menu. There'll be pretzels and buffalo chicken dip, but that's not a meal,
But if someone wanted to do carry out from one of the existing restaurants in town,
I
and
mean,
bring
we'll
them
look
in-
at them and judge them, but
Yeah.
they can.
No, got it. Okay.
No, they can bring
No,
in
it's a
whatever.
cool. It's a cool feel, and I think it's a great thing for, like you said, the cross pollination with businesses. It's another opportunity. Okay.
Yeah, no, people tend to like that. You're just not. I don't care where you get your food from. Bring it in and have a good time.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
I have just two quick questions, and there's just nothing not to like about this idea and the approach and the approach to doing this in this building. It seems perfect to me, but of course, I always go towards the architecture, right? So I think what you're doing with the entrance makes total sense, and you'll use it however the business works. It seems to me, I think that the front of the building, to me, is kind of a great place for the seating area, and the side maybe would be for the games. But that's something for you to think about it, because it's next to those big doors. You're going to change the doors, and it seems like, I don't know, the environment seems better.
In the beginning, that was our initial intent, was the front. And that's not to say that we won't revisit that. And the other thing that happened is we learned the budget to redo the front is we'd have to rip up all the existing cement. Yeah, and it was just.
But you're going to backfill in front on top of the ramp, right?
No, you'd have to rip everything out first, put in a new retaining wall. It turned into to do it. So our initial intent was to extend that
like flat,
but take it out like 15, 20 feet. So as it currently exists, and then backfill that and make it one large seating area, which we may do. But then after I spent a day there with the doors open and just kind of hanging out and seeing what the traffic patterns were like and things like that. And I was like, you know what, let's revisit that. And
okay, no, that's fine. I hope you reconsider it, but it takes me to the next part. I think that however you do that, and you will need a retaining wall like you're showing here.
Yes.
But if that patio is done, not just you say we're just gonna fill it with cement. Ideally, I hope it would be something a little nicer than that. If the patio is a nicely done patio, I think it would be conducive to that. So, but think about it, because I think it's a great spot, and with planting and screening, it happens in all other urban spaces.
I think it's important to note, though, that there is like an easement there. The culvert goes sort of like through towards the police station. So we do have to be mindful of how far they come out. That was another kind of a reason to.
No, I'm just talking generically.
Okay,
the picture shows.
No, I don't.
I see this picture. It just. I want to drink a beer right there.
That too. How it was so shady.
But on and the other question is, you're going to do some mild renovation, very little work. Looks like you're going to change the doors and put some bathrooms and that. So it's a pretty old building. So are you going to be responsible for abatement of hazmat when you do your work, or is the town going to be responsible for that?
I believe that's our responsibility.
Okay. Because likely you will find something on a building of this age.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay.
Other questions?
I had sent a question for Peter that to try to get a copy of the lease. I think we should have that when we're looking at the whole application.
Once I get that, I'll send that out to everybody.
Awesome.
Deepa?
I'm good.
I was just wondering, what happens in front of that retaining wall, now that it's not placed right on the sidewalk, it's back, there's an easement, you said that has to be, but what happens in there? Is it just a wider, does it stay as is, is it just a wider sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is no sidewalk there. So if you remember when we did the downtown project, the sidewalk, so that was still remained a driveway.
Okay.
So we haven't, down the road, Tricia, honestly, it would be great if maybe we do think about that and making that a sidewalk, but.
That might be just wait and see what happens a little bit with the success of the brewery and, okay.
Yeah. I think, when you dream, I kind of have the same dream as Marcelo, where it's more of a patio area, and we're pushing it out a little bit. And if the further you go out with it, the higher the retaining wall has to be. Maybe there's some benches in front of the retaining wall. It's a nice seating area with people behind it. I can see that vision, but not day one.
Just to add to your dreams, you know that there are very light systems on pedestals that you could put, and you don't have to build anything, and they're removable. So when you leave, you can take them out. So that would be a way to make a flat surface with pedestals that are adjustable. There are systems for that, and you will get your patio without having to spend.
I looked at that.
Yeah.
It was. I was shocked. I was like, "Oh my god, is that what you suggested?"
Yeah.
And she suggested that for the side patio because they do look nice. And then I looked at it and I was like, "Oh my god." It was like a 4x4 section was $25,000 or something. It was absurd. Yeah. If you got a guy or one that fell off the back of a truck, I'm open. Okay.
So just a few things, logistics. So the main door is the one on the first, on the left there.
No.
Is that right? The main, is it on
there's two entrances, the one on the left, and then on the other one, we're gonna have to put in, you can kind of see it
through there, yeah.
The double door there, so.
So that's actually the main door, the double door? Or
Yeah. I mean, whatever's the most functional is gonna be the main one, but as I envision it, the parking lot's on that side, so most people go that way.
So you can come in either way?
Yep.
And the colors, I know it said in your documentation that the colors that you're showing are your logo colors?
Yeah, the
your
brand
branding
colors. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I like have you done that? I haven't been to the store in Hudson. Did you do that type of painting there as well, or is that something new for this project?
That's
the
new.
large, that's new?
Yeah, you're talking about the left-hand side, the Clover
Yeah,
Road going down the
on
left.
the other side of the building as well.
Yeah, no, that'll be new. We're gonna have Sign Logic, who's based out of Hudson, hopefully help us with that, and,
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it's amazing how just signage can kind of really dress up that exterior. I
Yeah.
noted in your documentation that it's, the lease doesn't work out, you're out of here, we hate Ashland, we're gone, that it's possible to take it off that
Yes.
building and, okay.
yeah.
Can I just ask a follow-up question to that? Who would take it off? Hopefully you guys will never have to take it off, but if you do, let's say this lease does not go on forever, is that something that you would do or the town does?
I would imagine it would be the town, just like, we treated the lease like a standard commercial lease, no different. So if we left
Okay.
our place in
Yeah,
Hudson.
the town would take care of the
Yeah, it would be
signage.
like, all right, well,
Would you guys be open to adding two things? One is I love this project and how it preserves the speaking of historic projects on site review that are truly that example that we were discussing earlier. Love that. My only kind of thought is it's still owned by the public and I don't necessarily see that, right? And so my only question is there a way to have a plaque that sort of recognizes, hey, this is what's the history of the fire station? When was it in use? That this building continues to be publicly owned, that the public is welcome into the building, sort of a connection to our history, to recognize that, hey, this is still a public resource. What are your thoughts on that? Just a small plaque that recognizes that so that we don't forget, if you will, that it's still a publicly owned project.
Sure, yeah.
And we can recognize our history and connection to it from that perspective, not
Yeah,
just from-
hopefully if we're doing it right, everybody knows that. So, yes, totally.
It would seem that something like that might be placed on the town to work with the new business owner.
Sorry, who was that?
Excuse me, Ellen, when you do speak up, you have to raise your hand and you'll be called on during public comment. Thank you.
Yeah, so does anyone have any follow-up comments? So this for us is, this is obviously a site plan review. We're very familiar with those criteria now. We won't be going through them this evening, but the project then is also eligible for design plan review with the design review committee.
That is correct. So just to give everyone, from a logistical standpoint, the applicant is going to design review.
Well, usually we send them there.
Correct. The planning board sends them to design review. And the next design review would happen to be February 1st, a week from this Thursday. And so that is just the process.
Okay, so before we get there, I do want to open it up for public comment. So I will let Peter manage that.
So with that said, and if there's nobody in the room, I will go to Zoom first. But please, the first with their hand up is Helen Nicole. Helen, can you please state your name and address?
Hi, yes, Helen Nicole for Elliott Circle. I'm on the Historic Commission, and I have to say I am pleased mostly with the way the building looks. I'm very happy to hear that there is only light renovations going to be happening inside as well. The question I have, though, I'm noticing on that right side patio, there's a door, double door, and that's a change to the outside of the building, which, you know, we had written in some restrictions about not changing the outside of the building. However, I do remember we did discuss with Beth the building becoming ADA compliant, which I think they had talked about needing a door. But what my question is why does it need to be that door? Why can't those front doors be used to make it ADA compliant so that they don't need to take out a section of that wall?
There's some functionality to that. So in order to be ADA compliant, you have to be able to get direct access to the bar and to the bathrooms. So that when we looked at it with the architect, that was the spot that he determined would be the best for it. I mean, I wish we didn't have to put a door there. It'd save money, but we do. And so that's the spot the architect determined would be best for it to meet all the ADA compliances.
Okay, I'm still not sure, though, that I understand why. So that door, to me, is around the corner from three large doors. And I have to tell you, I do love this whole project. I think it's a great addition to Ashland. I have no dispute there, but I really want to understand in my mind why that door needs to be there, why those three large doors don't work.
I don't know. That was what the architect recommended, and we just went with it that way. And he said this is the best way to do it for our goals, and that's.
What other three large doors?
Yeah, are you talking about
She's talking about taking the garage doors.
Those aren't considered, though.
No, but you could put a double door there. So she's saying the other thing that would happen too. Actually, I do know the answer to this. So if we did that, we would have to then reframe out. Right, you'd have to frame out the garage door, add a double door in there, put back in the brick to make it look historical and like it is. And you're just talking about different scopes of a project. So one is the path of least resistance, which is frankly what we did. And the other one turns into a much bigger project. And then you're gonna also have to try to match in the brick with the pre-existing stuff. And you might end up with something that you just don't really like. That's a good question, though. Took me a minute to think about that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, no.
Did you have more?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify that. No, I just was trying to understand why that was. So thank you.
No, sorry about that. It took me a minute to jog it. There's been a lot of steps to the project, and it was like, I had to think about that one.
And
It's a good question.
I just wanted to add in that it was a good question because, you know, I didn't even notice that was a different door. But I'm much more concerned for me that the front remains as pristine as possible with the three doors and versus something happening to the side to allow it to have another life. So
I was going to say exactly
agree.
that, Tricia. I think the characteristic look, the three big, fire station doors, messing with one of those would really change the character of it from my perspective.
I would triple.
Absolutely.
I would
And
agree
in
with
terms
that,
of
too.
accessibility, the slope that you have there, it's not compliant with what MAB requires to be able to access to a door. You would have to create a separate
That was
ramp
part of it, too.
that would change the front of the building, which is worse.
Yeah, there's a couple, that's right, too.
okay, go on to public comment.
Thank you. Public comment number 2. Carmelo, can you please introduce yourself with your name and address?
Hello again, Camilo Spitia from 3 Treasure Way. I just simply wanted to show my support and excitement about this project. I think the way you guys have preserved the building and try to preserve the type of architecture and some of the details, even with the signage that you are proposing, I think it's exciting. The only question will be how soon. So thank you so much.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, what kind of beer is on special, right? That's the question. That's the real question. I noticed your application said, that it would be utilized for politicians to go during election time. I'm like, wow, this was really written for us, right? You were like, we're going to write this for the planning board.
Thank you for noticing.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The last raised hand, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Hi there, I'm Susanna Magnuson. I live at 28 Voyagers Lane. I also would like to second the prior comment that I'm really excited to see this business coming to Ashland, and particularly excited about the business-to-business cooperation that you plan on doing, because I could see a lot of the smaller businesses, about 3 or 4 came to mind as you were talking, that just seemed like you would fit right in with our, town's goals. So I'm just very excited about that possibility. I also have a little personal question, which is my husband is an avid musician, a bluegrass musician, and we're wondering if you in the Hudson location ever allow jam space to happen where friends just come and bring their instruments and play music.
So actually tonight we have an open mic night at the tap room in Hudson. So we do that once a month?
The last Thursday of every month is open mic night.
Yeah, so I don't know if it'll quite be a full jam space because it probably wouldn't be the spot for a full band to come in. Just the acoustics of that building would be a little tough in the spacing, but we do intend to have live music and would be open to, I think we'd probably end up doing an open mic night again. It's really been a nice hit.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, good question. Who are the businesses?
Yeah. Right, I don't see any other questions from the board? Right. Oh, is there any public comment in the room? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm used to the hands raised now.
I know.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, welcome to Ashland. I have probably a couple of questions and a concern with the, can you put up the building? This way my questions can be verified. Okay. First, it's going to be about the historical facade. That's not going to be touched at all, hopefully. And the door down to the left, that's a single ADA, ADA handicap door. That's going to stay, yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Inside interior, the ground floor is going to be worked on, going to be as what it is, bar, seating. Is anything going to happen to the second floor inside?
No. So the town is going to use a portion of the second floor for storage. And then we did lease a portion of the second floor, but the primary function there is storage, and who knows one day, but we have no short-term plans for the area there.
Okay, so it's ground floor only then.
Yep.
And the wall there going across and to the, as facing left side, the Lunkers building next door is a narrow area. You got seating on that side, yes or no?
No.
No. It's the right side, so it's,
Yep.
okay? And that's going to be used with the spacing. We'll see, and then the easement, how many cars are you expecting to maybe park in the easement?
Is the easement the main parking
No,
lot?
there's no parking. The easement is, no, that's just underground. The culvert goes underground, like right on that corner. There's 20 spots in the parking lot.
Oh.
So it's a municipal lot.
Oh, so it's,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep, but they have 18 in their lease. So in their lease, they're guaranteed 18 for their business.
Okay. And in front of the wall itself, where the mouse is, what's that going to be hopefully used as?
Nothing, not in the short term. It's what we touched on right now. It's frankly, it's dead space. Maybe one day that'll change, but in the short term, that space will just look very similar to how it does now.
Okay, and last one is out of the range of the planning board. Sorry about that, but I got to ask. It's alcohol served. Are your servers going to be tip certified?
Our servers are tip certified now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Is there any other public comment from the room? Probably not. I don't see any other hands raised online. So I guess I would raise the question to the planning board if we are then ready to send this to the design review committee for their review. Looks like
We typically narrow the scope to specific things that are, germane to the project. Are we going to have something like that here, or it would be
So-
more of a generic review by
I think
by
in
the
this,
committee?
I can go briefly through them. This is looking at the design criteria for the design review committee as listed in 9.6.7. So most of these, again, are not applicable. Landscape, which in this definition of landscape is about minimizing tree and soil removal. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Building orientation, height, none of those things we can change. Roof slope, we can't change. Scale, we can't change. So the only things really are materials, textures, and color. Open space, which includes landscape. I think they have some information about landscape, obviously, in their written documentation. Heritage, which is about historic structures. Pedestrian access. I think those are the applicable.
So the one thing I thought that would be helpful, because we could in theory delegate something to design review for additional perspective. To me, the only thing that we may want to do as an exercise in consistency is there is an outdoor space. I remember when we handled other outdoor spaces in restaurants or this types of things, we had some factors that we looked at Motzi and TJ's. So we may want to find those factors and ask design review to kind of confirm that all the factors have been addressed. It might be a good, efficient way to delegate a task so that they can come back and say, yes, check, check, check. Everything outdoor related as far as the design, if you will, of the outdoor spaces is done, and it might save us time.
You're talking about the things that we looked at for outdoor seating that started with COVID, but then maybe continued on after that time.
Yeah,
Okay.
just as a way to save us time, because it's a very check-oriented thing that we've done twice. They could review that list maybe from our prior notes and just cut some time for us to do other things.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think it's similar to Mozzie, when we passed on that Chase Bank. You know that they'll also look at this in terms of the sustainability issues related to these items that are on the list, such as I'm not sure even if native plants make as much sense because they're replanted every season, right?
Yeah.
They're not growing in the ground, so I'm not sure those things even make as much of a difference. But there may be other things on that do.
I mean, you brought up the environmental stuff, or I didn't think about that. I don't know if we want to delegate that to them or have the applicant walk through what renovations, if any, are going to be done to the space to make it more closer to, our net zero goals or anything like that. We may want to explore that first as a board before we delegate, but it might be worthwhile to, I don't know if the lease already covers it, maybe Beth has some information.
Well, we have to remember that the planning board purview does not extend to the inside of the building or the function of the inside of the building.
I mean the outside of the building, or in general, kind of I understand it's site plan review, but it is also, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is it is a public space
But
too. It's
I
owned
think
by
it
the-
really doesn't apply, Anna, because it's not that they are adding a commercial kitchen. They're not even doing the brewing here in-house.
Yeah.
This is really a transitory exchange of goods and services. I don't think there's much to it that would be towards the net zero plan, or the building's not even touched for the most part.
Or even owned by them.
Right. Yeah, it's just a lease.
So.
Well, essentially, we're the landlord, right? Like, we, the town, are leasing it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. It belongs to us, and so it's up to us to kind of maintain it in a certain.
Yeah, that would be the responsibility of the
Right,
town, what
right.
they're going
And
at,
so
not them.
I can see that being kind of, I would have to think harder as to whether that's our jurisdiction or the town's in negotiating lease, but it feels like a gray area where, I am curious, what obligations do we have when we own that building to try to move it towards a more environmentally responsible direction as we lease it to someone for 5 years, which
I
could
believe
become
those-
10, which could become 15. That's all. I'm just thinking ahead, because 15 years from now, we may have a different expectation of that space as far as being environmentally consistent with our goals. And we have to think about that now when we're approving the project.
I believe at Springtown meeting, there was a bylaw passed about energy efficiency in town buildings.
But let's go, we really need the lease, right? Because a lot of times commercial leases, they have to take care of everything. I haven't seen it, right? So we
do have to take care of
yeah, that's a very common, we don't do anything, right? We
Yeah.
probably pay the tax.
I think you're right, yeah.
We pay the
So
tax.
we have to look at that before we get too far, and that's only maybe a small glitch about design review, because that does bring up lighting. Like, I apologize, I didn't scrub the notes in the drawings.
No worries.
But if there's any exterior lighting, and that might be, if it's on the building, we want to probably have the design review look at that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think
That's
they
fair.
can, yeah, I think that's fair.
Sorry, wait, so do you want a drawing of the building with the existing, because the lighting isn't changing, that's lit up like a Christmas tree out there. So there's lights on the building existing now, they're not changing, and then there's lights on the, police station, that if something happens to that building, we would then replace that to replace those lights.
Yeah, okay, and I didn't get to read like all the notes in the drawing, so like there's no new lighting on the patio or anything, that kind of stuff.
Pretty well lit now.
You don't need anything.
No, but I mean, we
So
might be
not
wrong there, and just didn't, like any project, you don't think of everything, so maybe we get there and we're like, you know what, we do need lights. It's still
So,
possible,
and that's fine, then we probably just put that a condition, if it does, it has to come back, right? If there's exterior lighting on the patio or something.
Yeah, I think if there's exterior lighting that may affect, I'm not sure what in that area, but then it may need to come back, but.
Yeah, we want to make sure, I mean, we still own the parking lot and that we still own the building, right? We want to make sure everybody is safe. So we also have, it's important for you to know too, that the town is maintaining insurance on that building, and they also have their own insurance as well. So I think.
so much insurance.
There's so much insurance, there's so much.
All right, so Peter has requested a copy of the lease.
Yeah, once I get that, obviously I'll send it out ASAP.
Does any of that discussion prohibit us from letting design review look at it?
No, it sounds like we're going to send it to design review for the consistency with MOTSI and TJ's, and maybe whatever lights outside that you know of. Did I understand that correctly?
No, only if it's modified.
Oh,
Right now
there's
there's
no
no
changes.
plan,
Got
yeah.
it. Never mind. So it's just the outdoor space design.
Part of keeping the building as it is, keeping the lighting, so. Okay, so I guess we will look for a motion. I will make a motion that that 151 Main Street is sent to the Design Review Committee for their review, for design plan review. I'll add that, I'm kind of really modifying my thing here, but that Marcelo and I can put together, if no objections, we can put to another memo. If anyone else wants to work on it, I'm sure we're both okay with that, but we could put together a similar memo just for consistency that includes what we talked about here and also includes the outdoor seating,
factors,
which I know I
yeah.
have somewhere, so.
I think that's all we're doing. We're just delegating for the outdoor seating, right?
And the other criteria that.
There's other criteria.
there are
Okay,
found,
got it. Okay.
but it's
Okay.
pretty straightforward for the most
Okay.
part.
I'll make a motion to allow Marcelo and Tricia to do as planned, as proposed,
And to send it to design review.
and to send it to design review.
We'll do it at the same time. Is there a second?
Second,
And roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Marcelo Hona, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So off you go to design review.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just to continue the public hearing, obviously we're going to design review.
Right.
However, we got to think about when they're going to come back to us. So our
Okay.
next meeting will be on February 8th.
That seems reasonable.
Is that too quick of a turnaround for design review.
When is their next meeting?
Because they're like February 1st, and that means you guys have a lot of work
Correct,
to
they're gonna
do.
be on February 1st, and then in the month of February, there's actually 29 days. And there's 5 Thursdays. And so we're actually gonna meet we're gonna meet the second Thursday, which is the 8th, then we're gonna meet the 5th Thursday, the 29th. We moved our meeting, which would normally fall on the 22nd. However, due to school vacation week, we all agreed that it would be best to move it to the 29th.
When do we have 320 coming back?
320 is going to be coming back. It's a great question. I believe it's February 8th.
So it's a little tight, but none of them, there shouldn't be heavy lifts, is what I'm.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, and it's not exactly the same scale as Mazi.
Yeah.
And not even TJ's, right? Like, there was a lot more construction even for the TJ's outdoor series. This is very, very minimal. So this should not, hopefully doesn't go around redesigning the whole project. But
Well, why don't we put them, the 3 of them, for February 8th, but nothing else? No visitors, no forums, nothing else on that date.
Perfect.
Okay. And we'll be efficient about
I mean,
our
if
time.
design review is not ready, we could still move this project along, meeting, like, right? We could start thinking about the factors and.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like if they're, for some reason, if they need more time, I think we can still hold the next piece of it.
Yeah, so we'll at least have them on our, often things get adjusted as we go along, but at least we'll have them on there, and can push it out if need be for other factors. All right, okay.
I make a motion that we continue the 151 Main Street project site plan review to February 8th.
I'll second.
And roll call vote.
Deepa Venkata.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Marcelo Arjona, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So it's continued to February 8th. All right. Next on our agenda, way back to the beginning. All right, we have to review the application of David Spatera.
Spatera, yes.
Spatera, thank you, for the Design Review Committee. And there's a resume in here somewhere.
It should be right behind.
Oh, it is.
Yep.
Okay.
There's a talent bank form, David's talent bank form, and then there is his resume.
All right, so David, it's nice to see you in person.
See you in person as well.
This is the planning board. Maybe we just introduce ourselves. Well, I guess we have our name cards, so you know who everybody is. Why don't you just, we have your resume in front of us, but why don't you just give us a short synopsis of who you are, your time in Ashland, and why you're interested in the Design Review Committee.
Thank you for having me here. My name is Dave Spatera. I've lived in Ashland almost all my life. I moved here when I was 1. Went to school here, graduate in 96. Static on that. That's better. And then I moved around a bunch. And actually ended up buying the house I grew up in. I'm a sinner, bought it from my parents 6 years ago. When I was working at GE Healthcare in Marlboro, it was a 15-minute commute. And now that I work for Sinorama just across in Southborough, I have a 5-minute commute. Love the town, love the small community, traveled extensively, but always kind of compared other places to here and what Ashland has. And it kind of always moves forward, but also with Clover Road and the fire station, it retains its past. My background, I've done a plethora of different things. I ended up going to culinary school. I went for Johnson & Wales when I first got out of high school here. But I didn't stay. I didn't want to work back a house in the kitchen. It wasn't my passion, as people say. Ended up getting a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Design from Wentworth in Boston. Did a bunch of internships. Ended up working for a former professor doing museum design. So I designed like graphic panels to air and space museums. Worked at another firm in Boston, got laid off from both of those places, and then went and got a master's degree in exhibition and experience design from FIT in New York. I worked at this small little place called the Smithsonian when I was there. You might have heard of them. I worked at the American Indian Museum in New York City, that branch. where most of the collection was actually stored. And then they opened the museum in the mall as well. Did an exhibit about Jimi Hendrix and 11 other natives and popular music that was in DC and was the size of this space, but then it became in New York. They have the old customs house and it became 10 times bigger. So my job as the intern was, how do we make this thing bigger? And I really loved researching like that kind of artifact. And that's what kind of like really I love about design and creating, is listening to what the needs are of people and then interpreting that, like actually going, like reading between or listening between the lines of what they're saying and coming up with something. So I would do like hand sketches, drinking out of brewery with the clients for the Air and Space Museum I did. And then that thing I did on a napkin now sits in a museum. So to me, that process is very rewarding. I worked for a bunch of firms. I got my master's degree, did a couple of different things in design. Came back, actually started teaching cooking classes at Sarah Latab. So I was there from open to close. When they closed during COVID, they've reopened. But I have my own company now. I formed my own company doing food, sauces, spice rubs, cooking classes. And then got back into doing design with Signarama. I'm technically in sales, excuse me, but I kind of take that design element when someone says, here's what I want to do for my sign. I have no idea what it is. I look at all the parts and pieces and say, this is what your message is. This is what who your audience is. This is what you should really be doing. And kind of seeing that light bulb, whether it was about dinosaurs or spaceships and now about branding and marketing for businesses, is kind of what is most rewarding to me. So.
All right. Any questions for David?
I will say I went to high school with you. I graduated in 1995.
You look extremely familiar.
And I think what you ended up doing is far more interesting than where I am sitting right now. So good for you. You got me thinking about signage and whether we should have sent that to design review on the last project, but good. Okay. I guess my only question is, you've been on design review for some time.
I sat in on a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. So they kind of, I saw them, I went, I do
so I misunderstood. Okay.
I did the farmer's market in October and they had a booth and I met Kathy.
Gotcha.
And got in conversations and then the holidays kind of just happened. So now we're picking back up.
And so how do you I'm assuming you've met with them and you've watched a meeting. How do you see your skill set contributing to the dynamic of that group? How would you contribute to that specific team?
I think it comes from, because of my diverse experiences and background and doing different things and looking at it from the visitor point of view, which is how I viewed my role as a designer, whether I was doing trade show exhibits or talking about dinosaurs or whatever. It was, what's the visitor going to see? Like what's the resident now going to see? And I think I have a very objective sense to that as to stepping outside the box, and really looking in from their point of view, I think is what has allowed me to be a successful designer. And now I think I can bring that kind of same viewpoint to the board.
What were your thoughts on the design that we just saw?
I love that they kept the facade facing the street the same. I think their logo on the brick, they mentioned the sign company in Hudson, use them local, that's fine. So I wasn't, afraid of that. I'll be curious if that's painted on or like in terms of removing, I'm just curious how that would be done. But painting the trim, the awning, like the flags, I think it's very simple and clean and it pays homage to it. So, because I think there are a ton of different ways and I've seen a bunch of different ways and I totally agree that if you started to do something with one of the doors, if you blocked it off, it makes it look like it's uninviting in a way.
Yep.
So the fact that they kept it, I totally agree.
Thank you.
No, I would just say that it's your background, definitely you have a diverse type of experiences and type of work that you've done, and I think it would be a pretty fresh view and things for the committee. So I find your experience very appropriate for it.
Thanks.
I guess it's an internal. Did we get a recommendation from the design review, or Or have,
Yes, they voted on it on January 4th. They can correct me if I'm wrong, on January 4th, and they.
did I miss that? I apologize if I did. I try to read what we get, so I didn't.
I don't think it came.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it came.
That's why I was asking.
Through. No,
Okay.
no. And I don't. Maybe it wasn't an email somewhere. Maybe I'm not sure. I watched the meeting, so that's how I know. So that's how I knew that happened, and I can't remember if I saw it somewhere as well. So
I just didn't want to skip that step. I mean, I'm thrilled that people that step up that have, I mean, being from town and having a perspective of leaving town and all your skills, I think is amazing, so.
Yeah, and Amanda, once Amanda has some comments, I can definitely open up to, Kathy already has her hand up, to Kathy and Kevin, who are on there. So,
I don't have anything to, I was going to say exactly what Kate said, the perspective and the commitment to town and the experience.
So why don't I open it up to Kathy and Kevin, if you, and I assume that's Hannah Stein as well, if anyone wanted to comment on this. But Kathy, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for letting me talk. We met David the last full farmers market, not the Thanksgiving market, but the last one where we could have a community table. And he seemed like he expressed interest in the committee. He seemed like he'd be a good candidate. He came to the meeting, and we actually didn't do an official vote at that meeting, but we did one at the following meeting. And everybody thought he would be a good fit for our committee for all the reasons he just spoke of at the podium.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Any other members of the Design Review Committee?
Hi, this is Hannah.
Go ahead, Hannah.
I just wanted to say, yes, everything to what Kathy said. Talking with David was really enlivening when we met him, and we were very excited about his interest. And we're so looking forward to him joining us and hopefully working on some signage projects as well as other things that come before the committee. So I'm very enthusiastic and welcome him.
Thank you. I just have one question for you, and you and I talked about this, I think, just a little briefly on the phone. As an example, the planning board in the last couple of years has gotten ourselves once in a while into a little bit of hot water because we go over what we're allowed to do as a planning board, and we get our fingers slapped a little bit once in a while. And so I assume in what you do when you're working inside spaces like the Smithsonian, or there's kind of a balance between maybe what you want to do as an artist and the restrictions that are put upon you from the outside.
Yeah.
How do you find that? How do you find that balance, or how do you work within that balance?
I think it's finding the deep common ground, like what is the overall, whether it's an educational message or a marketing message, depending on like if it's a trade show booth, or now with marketing, like in signage, a business, like what is their ultimate goal? So I think, and I hate to repeat myself in a way, but taking that step back and going, what is the baseline thing that we really need to work on, like that move forward with this project? Yeah, I can come up with cool sketches and renderings and stuff like that, but a lot of these aren't feasible. Like they fall because of budgets or committees, or the message isn't clear, or whatever it would be. And I think it's just part of the process, and I think, like in everything, listening is really key to other people, and what their message is and what they're really saying. And that's part of like, yeah, I'm able to discern what the client is saying, like I can read between those lines, but also what my cohorts and my comrades and colleagues are doing and what they're saying has huge value. And I think some people just wait to talk instead of listen to the round table. And I would just say listening and finding common ground first, and then nitpicking based on budgets and other things like that.
Thank you. Anyone want to put forth a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application of David Spatara to the Design Review Committee.
I'll second that.
And a roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Marcelo Hona, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So there you go. Welcome to the Design Review Committee.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Tricia, I apologize, and to the team, I have to leave because my daughter's 18 and I've been summoned because the teenagers have left the premises, and my daughter would like to have some birthday cake with me, so she's 18, it's a big deal.
Congratulations.
Thank you, so I'm gonna leave early, I apologize.
No, I
But,
forgot.
this is the day where, when my kid summons me, I actually listen, so, now that she's an adult. All right, so have a good time wrapping up.
I'm grateful that you could be with us this long. Longer than I expected.
I think
So,
this candidate made me stay, since
Oh.
I figured I have to vote for him, for
Oh.
a fellow high school.
fellow classmate.
All right.
Have fun.
Have a good rest of your evening.
So, we don't have meeting minutes tonight, so it's really just a little kind of almost news items here. Peter, do you have anything on the reports of planning topics?
No, I do not.
I love that. Let's just cross that one off. 7 reports from board members and town planner. Kate, did you want to give something on comprehensive plan?
Yeah, I do. So we had a meeting last week, and the kind of exciting thing is we're getting into the next phase of public, so it's a really important step. We'll be rolling out in February 3 things. One will be a survey that will be online. We actually didn't talk, if people don't have computers, so hopefully we'll get to that. But a lot of people do, but not everybody does. There will be a mapping tool, so that will be looking at the map and saying, I'd like the sidewalk here. I think this is a good place to plant trees, those kind of things. And the third thing is the meeting in the box that I know we've talked about it a few times. So they're all rolling out fast and furious. This survey is supposed to be live February 1st. And then I think the data map goes along with that, and then the meeting in the box. So one thing I did want to bring up, I think the planning board, I hope, will schedule to do our own meeting in the box as the board. And then the process at the meeting, we were sort of trained. So there's seven topics of, economic development, open space that go along with the plan. The exercise we did to practice was, here's your little prompts. We just broke into groups and had 15 minutes for each thing. But the problem is 15 minutes times 7, we do have to, if we're going to do it, and obviously I would highly recommend and suggest and cajole that the board participate in this, so that you get the time frame. It's very self-explanatory, but if you do it, then the ask, generally, we're hoping that, especially so that committee has representatives from other committee, they go do it with their committee, and then at least the people on the committee go at least that one layer as a kind of baseline getting started and modeling for the whole town. 18,832 of us, but that's not going to happen, I know. So that's the really exciting stuff. I think maybe put on the agenda, or well, actually under here we don't have to put on the agenda if that's practical, to have the board do meeting in the box, and then work on the next steps of that. And then I do want to bring up and I did bring this up at the meeting, I do have concerns of the timing. I'm on the committee, I attend, I read stuff, I go to the meetings, and I honestly did not know it was limited to an 8-week window starting February 1st. So I did express concerns at that meeting, and I asked questions about could we add time, and that's potentially a possibility. Brandy had brought up the meeting saying, well, can we start, and then if we need more time, expand. That pretty much got a hard no. I can understand because you don't, for their planning. So I had talked to Yolanda about expressing concerns about, I mean, this is public, it's a public process, $250,000. That's what weighs on me of involving the public. And we had kind of batted some ideas, also suggested, could we start March 1st and use that month for planning? And because again, we left the meeting without your assignment, your assignment, your assignment. How are we going to hit these groups? What are our plan? We just have to do our best, but we didn't leave the meeting with a plan, nor do I think we prepared ourselves. I don't know. Yeah, so I do still have that concern, and I'm supposed to pass those things on to you. So, so that, and then the survey, this is interesting. So we got a draft of the survey at the meeting on the 18th. We were able to offer comments, which Anna and I did prepare comments and sent back. We kind of did them individually and then smushed them and sent them in. And we didn't send it to the board because we weren't sure, like, open meeting, because it wasn't published and who sees it. And so at some point we can. Where we stand, though, I don't know if the town, if anyone from the town saw a draft of that before it got to the steering committee. So it's a little bit like, where do we go from here? Like, we sent a bunch of comments. We assumed there was going to be a meeting with the steering committee or something to review, and which comments and where do we land, and I don't think that's happening, so it's a little kind of frustrating of how that's going to get ironed out. So I feel like we have to somehow just be communicating out farther ahead, right? Like, to the steering committee, to you. I communicate as much as I know to you guys, but I don't know. So, like, I would have loved to take that draft to my board and say, here's a draft, you have comments, to get it turned around. And I feel like maybe that couldn't have happened in timing, but I wish we would have at least known that, right? And I feel like if a draft survey is coming from the consultant, we probably could have said, can you give us this much time so we could go back to the board? Particularly the planning board. Maybe some other boards don't have maybe as much. So anyway, that's what I know. It's supposed to be coming out February 1st. Survey, data map, meeting in the box. I think we technically have the materials to get started right now, but if I recall, there's going to be like a final, here's the packet to get started.
So obviously, as I just said, our February 8th meeting is it's well packed. Things could drop, but it's packed. So, but we should be looking for a date as soon as possible so we don't get to the end and be like, oops, we never did this. We never got to it, right? So that
Well, and I would love to have, I mean, I could ask Jana or anyone with me, everybody I meet, if you're from Ashland, I talk to you about the comprehensive plan. So I would hope if we do it sooner, then you have more motivation, hopefully, to go out and at least do it once with your family and your neighbors, right? That would be my job, cajole you into that. So not wait till the end where you don't feel confident to go do at least one more yourself.
Is it something that we would, as a board, think about finding a retreat day that we could just do it separately and just show up just to do that? I mean, obviously we'd have to post it as a meeting and stuff, but, I mean, I don't know, or is our...
What's the duration of this?
Well, I mean, we again counted 1 to 7, go divide in groups, go do it. It was really just to get us a flavor of how to do it. It wasn't, that data wasn't used. It was thrown in the trash. It wasn't for the data. It was piloting it. And every group got through their subject. They felt competently in that approximately 15-minute time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But 15 times 7 topics, 15 minutes. No, maybe.
It's a full meeting. It would be a full meeting for us.
Yeah, so maybe some of them, because maybe on some things we think more alike and we don't have as much discussion, they go quicker.
Mm.
We're not, the point of the exercise isn't that we have to agree on what we write down, it's collecting, right? So,
Okay.
but you can see if
So
you're
we don't
not.
have to worry about consensus?
We love consensus. We're good at it. It just takes time. But no, you're just recording, you're recording.
And is there any rules to it? Can we do it in 2 sessions?
Yeah,
Separate? I have,
absolutely.
like, half of the topics and then the other half?
No, absolutely. I was giving the time frame. I mean,
You don't have to do it at once, it's just done.
You do not.
Yeah, okay.
So we can actually keep this, say February 8th approaches and someone continues, right? We could have meeting in a box ready and say, hey, we have an extra 45 minutes. We're going to...
It would be ready that way? Because that would be
We're going to do
useful.
some sections.
It will, and I'm going to rely on Anna and Anna's typing. So ideally, we can handwrite, and you won't be able to write, but I'm pretty good at it. But ideally, so again, the format, if you're talking to people about it, is online because they already have it entered, then they're not translating, right? So it's prompts, it's talk for 15 minutes, collect ideas, move on to the next one. Yeah, it's pretty.
Okay.
It'll be good.
Seems doable that way.
Yeah, that's true.
So I would say.
Yeah, I'm concerned that if we leave it for later to try to do it in one, then we end up not
we
doing
might,
it, whereas if
or
we get
not
started,
do as good of a job because
we
we'll
may end
try,
up
yeah.
with time and say, well, let's go.
Yeah, so I would say for our February 8th meeting, if it's out, let's be prepared, even if we have an extra 15 minutes. Hey, let's try one of these.
Does it
Let's
have
see
to be posted on the agenda as a potential thing on the
I
report?
think
Or
it's
is it
a
going to be
good
under
idea.
the comprehensive plan?
We can
Or
put
will we
I
have
think
it
it's a good
there?
idea to put it, though, that we're gonna, because we also, I mean, I would publicize, like, we're gonna do our best, I hope, to be cheerleaders,
put it to
right?
be-
And that'll help.
I can put it in one of our, I'm trying to get things in the newsletter more regularly. There won't be anything from me tomorrow because I didn't get there. But, I can mention there that as the planning board has opportunity, we'll be doing our
We're gonna
sections
be-
of
Yeah.
meeting in a box. But I'm not gonna put yes, we're gonna be doing this section at this time. It's like,
No,
can't-
I
yeah.
don't think that's necessary, but I would love to see it because I just think it helps
Yeah.
with the publicity,
Yeah,
right? Of
yeah.
like,
Could be a subsection of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We'll just put a dash and then we'll say,
Yeah, right there.
comprehensive plan, meeting in a box, like, and if we don't do it, we don't have to do it if we don't have
Yep.
time, but it's there if we
Okay.
have a space, if it's.
And when
if
it's done, we take it out.
Yeah, yep, when we get all the sections done.
Is the sustainability committee coming back for tree bylaws next in February?
That's when we get to sustainability committee, Deepa.
No, but is the Feb 8th going to be blocked?
I don't, no one's going February 8th except those three.
Okay, no, I was wondering like if we
Yeah.
want to allocate like what we did for the tree bylaw the other day, like start at 6:30 and
Oh.
attack this focus comprehensive plan section.
Oh, like if we started a little bit early?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about almost 2 hours for 7 sections.
but I think what I would do, I like the idea of trying it. If it's a couple meetings, we did nothing, we have to regroup, right?
Yeah.
It would- But
But I
let's,
mean, we've been in meetings where
No, it's
things
true.
drop without notice.
Yeah.
They do.
Like, "Oop, no, they continued this.
And usually we could do a 15-minute, like if we just do one of the sections, just
Yeah.
to
Like a
brainstorm
test.
a little bit.
I mean,
Usually
I
could
agree
probably
with
do that.
Deepa, we don't want to do them all at 10 or 11 o'clock at
Yeah.
night,
Yeah.
because we
No,
won't give our
that won't
best,
work.
yeah, but I think that's a great idea to try.
Yeah, I mean, if we have an open calendar on 8th, then yes, 7:15 to 11:30 is fine, but I think this topic at 10 o'clock is not going to
Not
be
helpful, yeah.
Yeah,
productive.
we'll assume, we'll put it on our agenda for every meeting starting now. We'll
Yeah.
put it in comprehensive plan. And we will fill it in as we can. And if we get to, getting into March where we're not going to finish, we'll make sure we lay out some real time. Or we'll start doing that even in March if we'll start
Yeah.
Or we
laying
can
out
start doing maybe an early one, like
Yeah.
you said, on that
Yeah.
point, to finish it up, to force ourselves. to
Yeah,
finish.
even coming at 7, or
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, we can take smaller chunks and attack it.
Okay. Next, Design Review Committee, I don't think there's anything else there. So Sustainability Committee, Margie had asked to have kind of a retreat after our last meeting related to the tree bylaw again. She asked for 90 minutes. Just with the Sustainability Committee, with the Planning Board, it could be a smaller group, but I think we haven't had a chance to discuss it. We were just listening, that I think it should be kind of everyone who can make it. It could be Zoom. It doesn't have to be in one of our meetings. I said really, she asked me to offer, some like days and times. I said really the only times that ever work for us is opposite our Thursday meetings. And comprehensive plan takes one of those, right? So. Exactly. So I think February 1st, next week, is a potential to have a Zoom meeting and for 90 minutes, and if you can tune in your pajamas, at least we're there participating. Is that a possibility with everybody?
Yes.
Sure.
So, okay, that would be, okay, so we'll look at that, Zoom, February 1st for tree bylaw. And related to that, before I forget, wait, I have it somewhere. Yeah. I believe I was cleaning out my sustainability folder here before the meeting, and I passed these down. I believe Peter must have put these on the table next to me, and I just put them all in my folder. Because what it is an email directed to Peter from Peter, is it Wesberger?
Oh, yes. Oh.
And he was just he's giving his take on the tree bylaw. Peter, I know him, I did serve on the YMCA board for a year or two. I actually had to choose at the time between planning board and YMCA board, so I chose planning board.
To that.
Yeah, thanks. But he is the Chief Development Officer for the Metro West YMCA, so he's obviously very involved in the development of the YMCA in Ashland. And this is an email, and I apologize, like I said, I must have sat next to Peter, and I put the whole pile in my folder, and they didn't get distributed. So I wanted to make sure that other viewpoint got to you, that's all. Sorry, I stole them. I didn't mean to.
I'm just assuming if it's saying response for planning board and sustainability, that it got to them, because if it was addressed to Peter, but you're giving it to us, did it go to the sustainability?
Oh, yeah, did it?
You know what? It's a great question. I'll make sure I send
Yeah,
it to.
we need to.
I'll just
Yeah.
make a note. I'll make a note to do that. I assume I did, but
I saw it this morning when I was cleaning out this folder. I'm like, oh, I have 5 copies of this. Okay, so CPC, we're meeting next week. Metro Wesley Regional Collaborative, anything on that? Okay, no meetings. MBTA communities, I'm just putting this under other because we don't have a slot for it. We are having, you'll see it in the town.
the newsletter tomorrow. We're gonna organize a kind of a community discussion regarding MBTA zoning, and we're gonna give a presentation. It's similar to the presentation that we kind of gave to the select board, planning board, but on Zoom to anybody that's interested. And we're gonna kind of hopefully start spreading the word.
Yeah, so it's really about, you don't have to be there. It's not a board meeting. It's really just about, to get it out to the public, this is what the regulation says. These are the initial ideas we have about, how we think we could meet this. Here are some alternates in there, and trying to get some feedback from the public about, would we like area A included or area D? Like, which one seems best, right? So it's not on, particularly on a warrant article. It's just to get initial feedback and to kind of have it out there. But
It would be Monday, February 5th.
yeah, so
Sorry.
on Zoom.
It'll be via Zoom, and Alvaro and myself and Tricia and Joe Mignani, the select board, will kind of be there talking about kind of the process, what we've done, what tracks we're on, and trying to move things forward.
Yep, so since we met the last time, since the select board and the planning board met the last time, we've just been kind of going through, really it's been Peter and Alvaro going through just the worksheets and asking the questions and dotting the Ts and, crossing, and there's just a lot of information to try to get in there. So that's kind of where we are in the process. We're kind of just in the meat of it, trying to see if what we think we want to do is possible, but also to get community feedback to see if, they can give us some direction on that too.
Yeah, just a note, at this time, we did receive a grant from Mass Housing Partnership. We do have 2 consultants working with us. Emily Inns from Inns Consulting, who I've worked with in the past, who I cannot say more good things about, and then also RKG, and RKG is working with a lot of Metro West communities. They're actually running the affordable housing numbers and the affordable housing components to kind of back end how much of a affordable housing component and/or percentage we can add to our overall bylaw. And so that has to be done in relationship to the legislation. which is, I think so I'm sorry, it's 10 o'clock at night. The title of that report is kind of a fiscal and impact analysis. RKG is doing that for us. And then Emily is kind of helping with the overall drafting of the bylaws, which obviously Lisa Bede's included in. And so we're kind of pushing ahead with that process.
Will you have public forums?
Yes.
After that point?
Yes.
Yeah, because this first one isn't about a warrant article. We would still have to have the ones about the actual, but we don't have a bylaw yet. We're just trying to get that initial information out there, so.
We have time till the year end?
It's going to be a tight window.
Yeah.
For spring.
It's going to be a very tight window to spring. I learned today that Natick is pushing off and looking into fall town meeting, just to kind of pull back a little bit. Alvaro found that out kind of through the grapevine, through a couple other communities, and so we're going to try to, the thought process is we should try to do all we can to make sure we get it on the spring and just continue on, and that's what we're going to do.
There have been discussions in the Metro West Regional Collaborative. There was an email today from in Weston, but we had a couple meetings ago. Everyone had gone through and said what their plans were, what their process was, and I think the vast majority of towns were targeting fall. But email today was sort of around like how much compliance they were even going to look towards targeting more, getting it through town meeting, and maybe not being entirely dotting all i's across the t's.
Yeah, it totally seems kind of across the board right now at this point. I think we're still in a good location. Obviously, we have a good team working on it. But I agree with Amanda. Everyone is still kind of noodling, trying to figure out what's going on. I can't say more enough about Alvaro and the work that he does on the compliance model and the GIS. I think without him, we'd be kind of lost a little bit because his skill set with GIS and being able to get that GIS license was a game changer for us, and to kind of get that energy into the process. And I think we have a good game plan. I think we've always had a good game plan going back even a year ago, working on the compliance model that we had to submit for the state last January. And so I think it's just a matter of putting everything together and hopefully, we can thread that needle and get it on the Springtown warrant and meet compliance. And if we don't, we'll reassess and we'll carry on. The deadline for adoption is is theoretically a year from today, right? It's December 31st, 2024. That's when we have to comply. But I think right now we're going to push forward and hopefully thread the needle.
25, so January 25. Right?
It's
approximately
when the ball drops.
No, it's December 31st this year, but I think we sort of agreed, I really wanted the spring. I feel like if you don't, given that we've known we've had this, we've made a lot of success, we hired consultants, you're giving the community not feeling like it's kind of holding this over, you have to pass it, right? Because hopefully the forums ahead of time are going to flesh out things that when we go, that it's more understood and accepted, but I don't want to have, you have to pass this because now the deadlines. I feel like that's not.
Well, that's exactly why we're pushing forward, except there's a lot more, like I said, we had that presentation we gave to everybody, and really it hasn't really changed that much, except that there's all these questions that are we have to track down every one of these questions, right? And so it's just a lot more complicated than it's just change these little things in the bylaw and you're done. So we're hoping for that. We talked about that. That's what we're hoping for. But like I said, it's tight with everything we have to do and everything we have to track down and getting the consultant and do we want everything. So
getting the consultant,
doing the best we can,
getting the affordability component study going. Obviously, getting the verbiage. It's a lot. It's a big lift for everybody, right? And not just for us in Ashland, but I think regionally. Obviously, if you go, on the Metro West region collaboratives, that's why what Amanda was saying. Yeah, some towns are kind of still trying to pull it together, right? Because it's a huge lift, for every city and town.
Yeah,
And
but
so-
some have passed it already too, so like.
Doing our best, Kate.
No, I'm
Really are.
just repeating to speak up because I just want, I think you are doing your best. But like, if there's any other way, right? And if there's a certain thing that I can take as a board member, like, it's pretty hard for me to take more on with the comprehensive plan, but like, I would at least consider that if that helps get it
I
to.
do think the ones that have passed, I could be wrong about this, but if I'm thinking back to the meeting of the regional collaborative where everyone went through their status, I think the ones who had passed were kind of like handed compliance. Like they were like already, they met the requirements, or like they didn't have to like completely. That's my recollection. I could have that wrong. It was, I think, end of November. But I think it's every town is situated a little bit differently, and I think the ones that are in our situation, I think Holliston and Sherburne even have like big issues with like water and sewer and septic and like things that we're not necessarily grappling with. But I think that there was an easier path to compliance for some communities than others. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we're trying to do things right. And I think it's coming together. It's just that the complexity of the stuff even that Alvaro is working with to submit the plan, it's like way beyond what we showed in that presentation. So, anyway, that's where things are. So, February 5th, if anyone can make it, but you certainly don't have to be there. It's not a discussion for the planning board. It's a discussion for the community, so. All right, and the only other thing I have on my list was that, was it Helen Nicole that asked?
Helen Nicole, the historical.
Yeah, asked the planning board for meeting time at some point, no particular date, but to talk about a bylaw that creates a historical district downtown. So obviously I'm happy to put it on our agenda at some point, but there's a few, we want to make sure we get comprehensive plan through there. There's other things we need to make sure MBTA, we have to make sure we stay on track. So, but maybe March, we'll have an opening for that. We'll keep an eye out for it. I don't have a date for that yet. So, was there one more thing you had? Something that you were going to bring up under?
No, I just wanted to mention the Upper Charles Trail. We're applying for a grant for the Upper Charles Trail, and I was collecting letters of recommendation from MAPC and the state, and we're doing some work. Gonna hopefully moving that project along. It is a priority project of the select board, and historically the planning board has kind of granted a letter of support, and so just be aware. I may be asked and/or could be sending around just a draft letter of support that I would ask, either to put on the next agenda and/or to everyone take a look at. But other than that, that's it.
All right, and like I said, we have no meeting minutes tonight. Is there anything else from the board that announcements?
I do have one thing. At some point, can we put on the agenda sort of, we didn't talk about that memo from Lisa Mead about the grinder thing, but I think we probably need to talk about it related to the project. Well, I think I know my answer. My thing would be to see if the planning board would basically ask the select board to they're the water and sewer commissioners, so like if we sort of are the crux of finding something, I want to make sure it's passed on. I don't think they sit around watching our meetings, right? I know people have friends and those things, but I would like it to be, I would hope that we would professionally communicate something about that to them at some point.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I didn't even read that memo yet, so I saw it come in.
I did read it.
But, so yeah, we can discuss it first in context, like you said, with 9 to 49,
Mhm.
and then wherever it needs to go,
Awesome.
after that. So remind me when we discuss it in context here, so that that we follow through with it if that's what needs to be done. Right? Anything else?
I'm curious where the Whitmore Estate.
So Whittemore State, we're still working with them, obviously. I spoke to one of the homeowners yesterday, kind of helped her out, looking at some plans for her house. Our attorneys are still working on it. A couple of weeks ago, I sent over a memo on work completed. Prior to the holidays, they did do some work out there. They rebuilt the entire swale running down the left side of the roadway, which I inspected a couple times. It was built to obviously standards. They did rough in some of the sidewalk work, kind of around the cul-de-sac, but they kind of shut down, and they actually tried to build up some temporary kind of curbing running down the right side of the roadway to help manage the flow of water. However, with that said, we've had a couple unprecedented rainfalls, and so the work is kind of held up a little bit. Obviously through the winter, that was our goal, just to kind of hold up through the winter. There's plenty of work that still has to be done. Legal counsel is still working on the case, and they're kind of moving it forward with their own pace.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? All right, in that case, I will make a motion to adjourn at 10:23.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Marcelo Hona, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
Amanda Hayes, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you in February.
Man, what's up with those lions?